All right, looks good to me. Looks fine to me. It looks like the timeline has finally caught up with the players. So I think we could jump into the first game of today's series. Let me know if the settings okay. I did see someone wanted me to turn up my graphics a little bit. Maybe the foliage a little bit too much. You guys will have to let me know if that's okay or not. But for now, game on the way. And let me give you guys a real good introduction to both of these players. So on the west area of the map, Colorado, we have Ezad playing for the clan Cakes. I feel like that's definitely shout out worthy. He is playing India in the color red, currently with 4 villagers on wood as well as 2 villagers on food, gathering his crates. Very great civilization to pick, I feel, on this map, due to the fact that he's also, of course, got this little choke in the middle section of this map, which he can easily wall off, and then combine this with an agroforce, so making this pretty much impassable for any sort of units of his opposing force. Now we're going to pick up a treasure as well, a wolf pup that you can tame. So getting a wolf pup, I was waiting for that comment, the Jazz. I don't like the foliage, can't see what's top of it. Yeah, I was waiting for that comment. I felt like that might be an issue. I like it personally, but I know a lot of people don't. So I might just put this down to low and everything will be okay. So you guys get to see. And let's go. So that was the opening for Ezad. On the other side, we have Aizamk playing Russia on the right side in the color blue. He has got a lot of villagers on food at the moment. So 8 villagers on food, which is, you know, very different to his counterpart, seeing as he's got most of his villagers on wood. So you can just see two complete opposites pretty much here. India, of course, needing the wood for his villagers. So far, has he picked up any treasures? I think he has picked up a coin treasure. Maybe in his base scouts or something. No, I don't think he's picked up a single treasure actually. Was maybe trying to find a treasure here, being sniped by Ezad. So Ezad actually picking up that treasure instead, which was 60 food. So definitely a treasure that he could have used, and now kind of scurrying to the bottom side of the map, maybe looking to find any scraps that the Indian explorers have left over. Found a nearby mature cougar that he could tame, but not really something he wants. He's probably looking for a food treasure here, or something that could definitely excel his age 2 a little bit, or even his age 1. Now kind of going very aggressively in terms of how he's scouting. It's very unusual for me to see that he's kind of using Explorer to scout what India's doing and where he's located first. That's almost what it seems like, kind of giving up on the treasure gain as of now, which is quite unusual, sending in the economic theory. So very unusual as well. So I know this is a very good card for Russia to have in age 1, but I always feel like it's something you send in a little bit later. You usually send in the distributivism first, which gives you that wood trickle, enabling you to make those houses, which you surely need as Russia. But yeah, sending in the economic theory first, which, if you guys didn't know what that card does, it basically gives all of his villagers extra gathering rates for pretty much anything. So coin, wood, and food, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see tree 10%, mine 10%, as well as hunted animals, and funny enough, berry bushes as well. So really good card to send in. But yeah, age 1, very interesting. Not something we've seen too often. India now with the Coyote and the 2 explorers hovering around this 95 wood treasure, and oh boy, scrumptious ebony. Oh, beautiful. Definitely gonna look for that 95 wood treasure, needing it to, of course, train villagers, as well as potentially use it to make a marketplace, or even get some text that he will get in H2. Almost losing Explorer there. Needs to be careful. Explorer on 11 HP, but beautifully microed 1 HP. Swami Ezad on 1 HP for Ezad. So just a beautiful micro there. And this is top level, ladies and gentlemen. This is top level gameplay, and you can just see it right there with that beautiful micro. And I'm going to heal his Explorer up. And yeah, let's check out some of the things that Aizamk might be doing behind. So Aizamk currently going for a very slow age up. You can see he's going for the 17 villager age up. Also getting his premature gangster, realizing that he has a lot of food stacked up. Doesn't have those 3 villagers coming out just yet. So a lot of excess wood. So already getting that gangster, because he's going to transition onto wood after he hits his age up, which would be roughly now. There we go. You can see them just all wood. They just change their AI status and go onto wood. And I'm going to assume he's going to save enough wood for block houses. And I'd assume by his age up time that he's probably going to play defensively, which is, yeah, makes sense. I mean, against India having an in-base fortress, I don't feel like that's something that Russia likes too much. Strele only having, very limited HP points, fighting underneath a TC as well as a fortress that has splash. That's just kind of suicide if you ask me. So makes sense that he's not going full aggression age 2 with the Strele. But it hasn't actually scouted, I don't think, the aggro yet. No, he doesn't even see the aggro, so maybe just assuming that this is a good map for an aggro with the Indians, and just kind of realizing, yeah, maybe I just stay in my base. But I say that, and I see 3 forward villagers coming out, and I'm going to assume he will place a blockhouse, maybe, eventually could grab a TP, and just kind of secure the mid-map, and just kind of look for pickoffs. I think it doesn't really matter if there's an aggro in his opponent's base when he has so many units. So maybe a very late H2 push is something that we can see from Aizamk. Now I'm going to pick up a Nukta Clubman, guarded by 3 Coyote, as well as, of course, having most of his villagers on wood, but also pulling back a few villagers on food. So 6 villagers on food, needing that 375 food for those Streles, if I'm not mistaken, as well as the 260 food for the villagers. One interesting thing about Russia is that they do train villagers in blocks. So the time it takes Russia to train 3 villages, a lot of civilizations train so they train 3 villages in the time it takes other civilizations to train 2 villages. So you can just see how that could excel in the later stages. A little bit of a fight going on here. Nukta Clubman snagging onto some of these, I was about to say Mahouts, just standard explorers for the Indian player, but the Sepoy from the aggro age up coming in to kind of wipe away the debt of that poor Nukta Clubman, and yeah, going down in the end. So not really having his play pretty much, almost doing a lot of damage to this explorer, which I feel like can be very useful, especially if you're being aggressive. These explorers H2 very, very strong. They have splash damage as well as fairly decent hit points as well. So yeah, very good explorer. Probably some of the greater explorers to have when you're playing this game, just because they also have the stun ability, so they can actually have a chance to stun your enemy. So blockhouse coming out, as well as a second blockhouse being placed. You can see perhaps with the more info activated that he did ship in economic theory and 5 Cossack H2 now coming in, as well as of course making that second blockhouse, being aggressive. But I feel like this is quite late for Russia's standard, but I feel like this build that he's gone for is more stable. But just look at the damage the Strele are taking just purely from the aggro fort. And we say the aggro fort doesn't do that much damage, but when your units only have 72 HP, that aggro fort damage looks scary. And you can see Aizamk just simply going back, not really wanting to fight too much. He just wants to get nice pickoffs, I think. He just kind of wants to avoid the aggro, idle the Indian base, and just maybe look to get good pickoffs. And I feel like he will be able to do so with the Cossack, but needs to be careful. A pop hit could be very vital, a very, very dangerous for him. No pop coming out, no Seppo being trained. He was about to pop the Minutemen from the Ottoman consulate. Did you guys see that? That was very close. In this case, he's going to back off on that and just train the Hussars from the consulate instead. So kind of wanting to do it, but in the end just rethinking his situation. Maybe a little bit too premature. Could just wait for when he would really need it. I don't think this is a big blow from Aizamk if he loses this. He still has those 2 blockhouses to kind of fall back on. Maybe we can switch over to Aizamk, and I saw someone talk about the church card. Yeah, definitely having the church card in his deck, as well as the boyars that he surely will be sending in, as well as the team cavalry scouts, giving his cavalry extra line of sight as well as hit points. If I saw that correctly, now with these 5 Cossack roaming up, trying to catch these 3 Hussars off guard, almost on time right now. This is like they programmed themselves to do this. Really good pickoff from Aizamk, managing to see these 3 Hussar. I'm not sure if the 5 Cossack win against these 3 consulate Hussar, which are stronger than your usual Hussar. So yeah, definitely something he needs to be wary of. And I guess now that he's seen them, he's just going to chase them down and look to kind of neutralize this threat before they do any damage. And you can see these Hussar in hot pursuit right now. Most wanted indeed. 352 HP, but falling very low. 124 HP, but do a lot of damage as well. So not just high HP, but also a lot of damage, especially for Hussar. So yeah, definitely something that Ezad would want to use a little bit more wisely. And now losing a lot of HP on those, needs to kind of rethink how he's going to re-enter with these Hussar in the later stage. Definitely good against Strele, but wow, 3rd blockhouse being placed for Aizamk. This is incredible. Like huge timing for him. Like 3 blockhouses at 8 minutes. I feel like maybe that's standard, but usually this is not the Russia that I see. Often I see the 5, Cossack, the 10 Strele a lot sooner, and then the blockhouses a lot later. But in this case, Wow, great micro by Aizamk, trying to get these Hussar down low, but now the whole army from Ezad is here. The Sepoy in the backline as well as the Gurkha, so just gonna look to maybe suicide most of these Cossack, maybe pick off a Hussar on the way down. Has to abandon ship on this blockhouse, retreating with his villagers as well as his one Cossack, which he did manage to keep alive on 115 HP. But just not enough units to kind of defend this. The Gurkha, the Sepoy, feels like the unit composition of Ezad just a lot stronger than his opponent. The Strele will be great against the Sepoy, don't get me wrong, but doesn't really have a lot of anti-cav. Is training musketeers now, has 5 musketeers, and is also double blockhouse training musketeers in batches of 5, which is okay. But I don't know, it's yeah, I think the Gurkha in a mass would just tear through these musketeers, but you also have to imagine Aizamk is training units a lot cheaper, therefore he's going to be able to have a lot more units, right? So these Gurkha they're going to have more cake that they can eat pretty much in terms of fighting. So that's one thing I feel like is going to go very well for Aizamk, but he needs to make sure he doesn't fight a little bit too prematurely. And I also feel like he needs to add a stable. Instead of adding a stable, actually shipping in the 4 Cossack now, which is very interesting. Of course, the 700 wood was his second shipment in Age 2, which he did use to make those blockhouses. One blockhouse actually being destroyed. I think... Other than that, villager gathering rates looking fairly decent. Hunting dogs and steel traps out on the field, as well as gang saw, 2 villagers on wood, which will provide enough wood, I think, for a house every now and then when he does get pop capped. Currently 9 population space available, but look at this. I think he's going to start losing some units here, so might not have to make any houses in the later stage. Now Strele is kind of killing this coyote pup, as well as kind of trying to take down some of these Sepoy, which are sieging at the moment. The Gurkha in the backline for Ezad trying to apply some damage to these musketeers. Now currently focusing on this explorer, but this seems like a huge timing for Ezad. Currently 2k score ahead, 2.4k score ahead with the explorers in the front line. Just a beautiful unit composition for him. Just a lot of units to kind of just tank damage and also dish out damage, and also great positioning with those sours on the Strele. The musketeers do come in now, but still in range mode. Only a few of them in melee mode to deal with these sours, but almost a bait there for Aizamk. The Cossack coming out from the blockhouse in the back line, trying to get onto some of these Gurkha, but they actually find Sepoy instead. So gonna go home and maybe look to fight another day, and all of the units kind of crumbling from Aizamk. A lot of sours now for Ezad, trying to do as much damage as they can, but only musketeers left for Aiz, so it's going to be very hard for these sours to get their play. These musketeers do have 3 times versus cav, despite having 30 HP points less than your average H2 musketeer, so still very decent against cav nonetheless. But all in all, losing a blockhouse, losing those Cossack, it seemed like a great bait by Aiz, killing most of the Sepoy, also a lot of the sours, and then trying to get the Cossack onto the Gurkha. Just it was great, but it just wasn't enough. It feels like India just way too strong, way too many units out so early. So Ezad definitely playing in his realm of timing, I would say. Nonetheless, we also scout an Age 3 by Aiz, which makes a lot of sense, right? Going Age 3, otherwise I would assume he would have had a lot more military out on the field if he wasn't going Age 3. But is this the right play by Aiz? That is the question, because you see a lot of units from India, a lot of cavalry, very mobile units currently out for India, which will do a lot of damage to Aiz's eco pretty much. And now losing those 2 blockhouses, meaning he doesn't really have that much map control, and has 1 hunt in his base, which is unfortunate because it's also now back herded for him. So the only hunt that he had has now back herded, and joined the Indian side, like, I'm out, sucker, I leave you in your dust pretty much. And now he has no food to gather from, and what is he gonna do? I mean, Age 3 incoming, which is nice, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Also 2 shipments ready, which actually seems quite okay. Could potentially send in, falconets, could send in cav archers if he had them, or the Strele, or even halberdiers. I don't know about that. Has the fortress though, so maybe we'll see some fortress action instead. Sending in the 13 Streles, which I feel like is a wise move, because I think he's going to lose a lot if he doesn't send in units soon and defend some of this. He has the anti-cav provided to deal with these sours, but just kind of needs something for the Sepoy as well, so the Streles might just be shipped in from H2. Wow, more Cossack, or 1 Cossack still alive, but 4 or 5 Hussars coming in for Ezad in the backline, trying to get a good surround on Aiz, and the villagers popping out for Aiz, trying to tank some damage whilst he cleans up with his musketeers. The 13 Australia on the way, but he's losing so many villagers, 22 villagers, 21 villagers, 19 villagers. All his villagers are going down, putting the musketeers on the left flank into melee to deal with these very strong Bostanki Hussar with 352 HP. The Australia come out right on top of these Sepoy, are going to be able to apply some very nice multiplied damage to the Sepoy, but a lot of units here to kind of dish out damage as well as they receive damage for Ezad. The Sepoy just being so tanky, 180 HP, as well as the Gurkha and the backline being, I guess, fairly decent against Musketeers. But we talked about this earlier. It seems like these Gurkha have too much to deal with, just too many Musketeers to fire upon, so they're not going to be able to kill the Musketeers in time. I don't feel like. Might need a bigger mass, and yeah, now actually looking pretty okay for Ace. Is he going to hold this? I mean, he's H3. His score is quite far behind, but as soon as these Falconets pop, his score will go up, so don't worry about that. And of course, he's even sending in the Halberdiers, which I love the fact that he has the Halberdiers in his deck. I think that's quite genius. I'm a big fan of Halberdiers, especially with Russia. So very interesting play by Ace. So Aizamk in somewhat of a situation here. I'd like to say that Russia does quite well on this map, but I feel like just looking at this game, none of you are going to believe me. But I would also like to say India does quite well on this map as well because of these chokes and the aggro fort. And of course, you can just pretty much stay in your base with that aggro and just makes it very hard to apply pressure. When you're playing like Ezad, right? Ezad almost playing this to near perfection with how he played it with the aggro and his positioning. And yeah, I mean, still has a hunt in his base, which I think he's going to herd in right now. We can maybe switch the perspective to Ezad. We, of course, see Aizamk kind of going towards this side, securing this location. Very unfortunate early. He did place a blockhouse here, which was supposed to secure this area of the map, but just got scouted by Ezad. Ezad now building a TP as well. Sending in the 700 coins. So one thing to note is that Ezad is still age 2, right? And he's pretty much stuck in H2 for a long time versus Russia. He's going H3 now, but he was stuck in H2 for a long time. Has a shipment ready, so that's going to be very nice when he does reach H3. But he's under similar pressure, I would say. Aizamk now with the Halberdiers and the Musketeers and 2 Falconets. I'm not so sure about this. I feel like Ezad's push looked a lot scarier. So Aizamk obviously trying to do the same thing that Ezad did to him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work out for him because it just doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like he's very confident either. Like he's going back and forth. So yeah, he might just not be too confident in this push and might not believe it himself. So just going to opt for the trade post, I would assume, and just maybe play it safe for now. But I think Russia has no problem losing units. I think that's something that they kind of do well against, like losing units and then kind of remassing very strong and then just forcing their opponent to take like kind of a fight that they may not want to take and then just scaring him with the remass. But in this case, in that one fight next to his town center, he lost a lot of villagers, I'm not quite sure how many, but I do think it's nearing that 10 villager mark, which in, early H3, late H2 is quite significant. So yeah, Ezad, of course, like I said, sending in the 700 coin, also the H2 upgrades, so Cav HP, as well as the Desert Terror, which works on the Zambarak, as well as this Sours. They do more damage against heavy cavalry and coyote runners, and also gives him, of course, with each shipment, a villager. So 6 Sours with, I would assume, 4 Zambaraks, so not quite the full batch of Zambaraks. 8 Gurkhas and 2 Sepoy out on the field for Ezad. So not really a strong unit composition, and he's already kind of pushing out of his base, which is quite interesting. But I think one thing we have to note here is that Ezad hasn't lost any eco. So he's got 50 villagers 16 minutes into the game. I'm going to assume he also could potentially send in the 4 settlers from the Ottoman consulate, which would ramp his, villager count to 55. One interesting thing about this as well is that when you when you ally with the Ottomans, your units also get increased line of sight. So he's able to see a lot more. I'm not quite sure why the fog of war is not working here. I find it hard to believe he sees this much of the map. Oh, he's got units here. Right. Yeah, he sees a lot of the map, actually. He's got a villager here. He's got villagers up here. He's got a town center being built here. Just check how much map control Ezad has in terms of vision. He sees like 4 different points all at once. Isn't that crazy? I feel like that's quite absurd. And then, of course, the extra line of sight, which he does get with the Ottoman consulate. So yeah, pushing into the Russian base with the Sours, with the Zambaraks. Of course, the Siege Elephants just being such a great unit. It's kind of like, how do you explain the Siege Elephant? So for everyone who doesn't know what unit this is, it's basically an anti-artillery, but also good against buildings. But that's not what makes this unit so great. What makes this unit so great is that it's always ready to go. So it barely has to like unpack. It's always ready to move. You can just see a Corvin would have to kind of unpack, and it'll take a lot of time. The Siege Elephant doesn't have to do that. Sawa's snaring onto some of these Musketeers. Kind of missed the engagement of that fight, but nonetheless, not something we necessarily want to see. Musketeers on Sawas. That is yeah, the Musketeers should absolutely clean up these lower HP Sawas. Now the Halberdiers roaming in, and I feel like this is a good fight for Aizamk. Even though he's 10k score behind, this is not bad. The Halberdiers will tank a lot of damage. They have a decent melee resist versus the Sawas, and of course against anything that they put into melee. The Falconets also in the backline might be able to do some extra damage here onto these Gurkha, as well as most of the military mass that Ezad has remaining, which is only Gurkha. But I don't know if that was enough. I mean, just look at the score difference right now. Isn't that scary? The score difference is so significant just due to the fact that India has so many more villages than his opponent. 54 villages versus 19 villages of Aizamk. So you can just tell the eco for Az is not looking too good. And even though that fight was great, wow, Siege Elephants, you can just see outplaying the Falconets with their mobility, just making the Falconets look kind of stupid. They're like, what's going on? They don't even know what the hell's going on. Doing a 360 right there, trying to do anything. So yeah, Siege Elephants definitely being the superior unit. I'm not sure what this Falconet's doing. Wow. Nonetheless, huge cleanup for Aizamk, and I feel like, yeah, he's going to be happy about winning the fight, which obviously will give him more time, but will it be enough? I think what he needs to do now is ship in wood and make another town center, but yeah, I find that very unlikely that that's going to, you know, ever come to fruition. Interesting. What a crazy game. I need to take a deep breath. That was crazy. A lot of fighting, but that was game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. That was the taste of what is to come. That was a, you know, that was a moshari in the cherry pudding right now. We've got a full course meal on the way, so don't get too excited. Make sure you get your snacks on the ready and everything else, and just, you know, make sure you hold on to your seats, because I think it's gonna get a little bit more fiery. I feel like Ace does very well when he's behind, right? I think that's what he loves, and Ezad is a very good player, so he's going to bring his absolute best. So Aizamk just going to do some wild stuff, and I feel like I said, he does better when he's behind. You could see in that last fight, just kind of crushing that fight despite being 10k score behind, just like an angry tiger being cornered. So resource-wise, you can see the difference, 16k versus 30k. So yeah, just losing all those villages was huge. If he had just idled those villages, he probably would have lost the fight decisively, but he would have had his villagers alive, and I don't think the TC would have died, to be honest. So maybe could have just kept those villagers alive. I know he lost to pop out the villagers. The military mass, of course, being ahead for Aizamk, 137 to 123. Just more value for India. I think also more pop in units. The Cossack only being 1 pop, whereas a lot of Ezad's units, you know, the Urumi and stuff like that have more value, therefore more pop. I'll show you guys the timeline as well. I think this is something that you guys might want to see, just the villager graph, right? So this was roughly the time where he was getting pushed. So he was trying to age to the 3rd age with Exiled Prince, sending in those Strele, and, you know, took that big fight as soon as those 13 Strele arrived, and he just lost so many villagers with that pop, like going from 31 villages to 26 villages. And then after age 3, there was another pop where he lost, wow, oh my god, going from 29 to 17, so just huge. I just couldn't really recover after that. Not sure if he had the great codes as well. I want to check real quick. Yeah, he had the great codes. I don't know why I needed to check. Obviously, he has the great codes. So yeah, pretty good fight. Going to show you the military unit population as well before we head into the second game of this Play All 5 series. So yeah, that was the one fight. And the second fight quite cool as well. So, I mean, Russia does get wiped, but I feel like if he had the eco behind these fights, I think these would be good trades for Russia, right? Or fairly decent trades for Russia, because they usually take, you know, they just need to break even pretty much, and they're okay. Unfortunate. Very good game, and looks like Ezad playing for the Croatia Management Co. taking game number 1. So let me hear it. SMC, I would assume the abbreviation would be, and Aizamk playing for the Mandarin Dog Squad. Needs to, you know, find a way back into this Play All 5 series to win game number 2 or further and beyond. For now, we're going to go ahead and see if we can find the second game. And I'm also going to take some time to update the scoreboard. So this game is currently got 0. So I think this game just started right now, which means we've got some time to update the scoreboard. So hopefully the settings were nice. If there's any issues that you guys saw in the last game that we casted, that would be a good time to address them so I could just fix them. If, you know, games sound too loud, too quiet, let me know. I will read the chat as we wait for this second game to load up. So I think maybe we could start joining it right now and see what happens. Kaiser Klein saying 17 villages for just eco theory is sad. Yeah, we were questioning that card as well, so it's great to see what you say about that. Activated Mr. Dahlia saying Ace didn't have Grey Coats in that last fight though. Oh, in the first one? Interesting. Okay, that could have, you know, made a huge difference in that case if he had those Grey Coats in. Didn't quite check. Did have it towards the end though, but yeah, in that first fight having Grey Coats was very important. Which I'm gonna trust your source. He didn't have. Game number 2, not quite ready yet for us, I don't think. I'm just gonna... I think we'll be okay. Let's just jump into this game. I think it will be okay. I hope that the timeline will catch up. I always am very wary. But for now, let's jump into game number 2. And I hope you guys are ready. And I hope you guys are excited because this is a really, really good matchup. And for some reason, in the last games we've watched, we've always kind of seen the British civilization being picked on Korea, which is very interesting. I always feel like this is not the greatest map for Korea, for the British civilization, just due to the fact that you need quite a lot of map control. But I feel like the spawn for Ezad is quite decent. He has a 1, 2, 3 hunts in his base, so that's pretty okay. And of course the 4th hunt is quite close as well, so maybe not the worst spawn to have on the map Korea. I've seen a lot worse, to be honest. For now, of course, gonna give these players a proper introduction. I am a little bit stressed about the timeline, but nonetheless, we have Aizamk playing China in the west side. A very, very good pick indeed, and he is playing China quite often, if I remember correctly, and he's definitely gonna bring it his A game. I love his China gameplay. I love Aizamk in general. He's a great player and very, very creative player in what he decides to do. And yeah, like I said, he always comes up with new ways to kind of come back into a game, so you can never really rule him out, especially not with Aizamk and especially not with China. So a lot of players at this level, you know, they bring the game back home despite how grim it looks. And, you know, Aizamk being one of those players in particular. Now of those 2 goats, now of those 2 villages with the goats being tossed onto them, I feel like the villages are similar to livestock pens in a way, because you can also get livestock upgrades in the villages, and you can also then task your goats onto the villages to make them fatten up faster. So you can see China starting with that 1 goat already doing something very similar. Also picking up a treasure here, Ezad picking up that 40 food treasure, as well as killing that Black Panther with his explorer. So gonna be quite happy about that treasure. 40 food, definitely something that he will enjoy eating. Other than that, Ezad on the right side. So Ezad playing the British civilization, which we did talk about earlier, going for the 3 manor house start. And this is interesting. I'm going to assume he chopped the additional wood to get that 3rd manor house, perhaps with a wood treasure. So usually with the British civilization, you start with 2 manor houses or a TP or sometimes even a marketplace. But in this case, he's going for 3 manor houses, which I feel like is a great start. And on top of having 3 manor houses, which translate into 3 extra villages, he also has great spawn, I would assume, with these hunts being very close. Just needs to make sure he has these in just in time. Gonna now turn on the UI mod as well. We see the Explorers of A's going to pick up a coin treasure, 75 coin guarded by 2 black bears. So definitely, I think, a decent treasure for Aizamk. Pretty much anything that he can get is gonna be good for him. No matter what strategy he decides to do, I feel like coin could be used H2 for units, marketplace, or even, you know, to transition better into an H3 play, which I'm going to assume he might not do. I don't think he's going to go for like a naked FF or a semi FF. Otherwise, I would assume he might have grabbed a TP instead of those 2 villages. One interesting thing about Aizamk's build order is that he is sending in the Northern Refugees card age 1. So basically what this card does, it gives him a villager for each town center and each village that he has, villages essentially being houses. So he's getting 3 villagers with that card, therefore wanting to make 2 villages as soon as possible. I did have to chop for that villager, if I'm not mistaken. Aging up with the Summer Palace being a very common age-up policy to choose in age 2, giving him the free banner armies over time. And also additional resources when he finishes it. 400 food is going to be granted to him when he reaches that 2nd age. More treasures being picked up for Aizamk, so he's also getting a nice little 75 food treasure. And I mean, this could have been very useful earlier, but I also think it's very useful now as well, because China training in blocks need a lot of food for, their first unit training, because of how much food they require due to the fact that they're trained in blocks. One thing to know about Aizamk's civilization choice as well is that he is playing China, which means whilst he's aging up, he's also able to train villages, which I think is quite a big thing, because, when Ezad's aging up, he's not able to train villages. I know he's playing the British civilization, which, they don't really have a lack in terms of villager count. But I think with other civilizations, it can be quite big, being able to train villages whilst your opponent cannot during your aging up with the governor now for the side of Ezad. Also getting the 200 coin and doing a phenomenal job at hurting some of these days in. A lot of forward houses being placed. I like this a lot. Also like the forward outpost, and I think this is very different to how we see Brits being played on this map. He's being very aggressive, I would assume, and I like this a lot. I feel like when you're playing the British civilization, sometimes being extra greedy in the early game can really pay off in the later game, right? Being extra, ballsy in terms of building these forward houses, this forward outpost, which, yeah, could definitely work behind this, in front of this barracks. It means he's going to be able to hunt these in or herd these hunts in a lot sooner. Therefore, even if he does have his back against the wall later on, he's still going to have those hunts in his base, which that's pretty much all he really needs is resources. And then, of course, the 2 coin mines, which he does have as well. First shipment, H2, 700 wood coming in. Might follow this up with 600 wood or the 5 villagers. I'm going to have to see now. Is he going to... 600 wood coming in. So, interesting choice there. Sometimes you do see those 5 villagers. Aizamk also building a castle mid-map. So, no forward barracks. I'm going to assume no barracks at all. Yeah, no barracks at all. And, with this forward castle, we're going to ship in the Steppe Riders. First shipment in age 2, I would assume, getting a second shipment and sending in the Mongolian Scourge. Steppe Riders do more damage against walls. Did I see that correctly? Villages and buildings. There we go. Interesting. I've actually not seen that card too often. So A's second game in already kind of blowing my brain. But yeah, Steppe Rider's coming in. I know he likes to do this quite often with the Steppe Rider Keshik combination and just masked up a lot of cavalry, which makes sense because these Steppe Riders very similar to the Steppe Raiders or the Raiders in general with the Hausa civilization, able to do a lot of siege damage as well as, of course, a lot of damage to villages, especially with that card now sent in, which we're just going to double check. Keshik do more damage against heavy cavalry and coyote runners. Iron flails do more damage versus archers and skirmishes, so it adds a 1-point bonus to all actions damage versus heavy units with the Keshik. I think I saw heavy cavalry, yeah. So interesting card. I feel like it's going to scale very well in age 3. Now, Pike's being trained for Ezad, trying to get a piece of the action or just defend some of these poor villagers being brutalized by these Steppe Raiders. More Pikes coming out, trying to snare to some of these Keshik, and they connect with the Keshik in the backline, but the Keshik just too mobile, but nonetheless still picking up some of the Keshik in the backline. Nonetheless, the Steppe Riders on the other side being split up, picking up 2 villages, if I saw correct, as well as idling a lot of villages for Ezad. 2 villages in the town center. Also saw a fight over here. It looks like it was a fight between the Pikes and the Explorers. So a lot of fighting going on, and this is, as to be expected. We saw a very similar game yesterday, Germany between, Germany versus Brits, between Alligator and Major Dark, and it was very similar in terms of, micro intensive, trying to pick off as many villages as he can, and with that card doing, I guess, a lot of damage to the villages as well. Is this a 2x multiplier? A 2x multiply against villagers with a 15 hand attack, so very decent amount of damage being put onto these villagers, which I'm going to assume do have great coats as well as steel traps. So yeah, 29 villages for Ezad, but rapidly going down, and you can see Ezad kind of having enough, training Pikes, but not really going to chase down these Steppe Riders, kind of giving up chasing down these Steppe Riders. They're just too fast, and they're just coming in too many numbers, so just going to burn down this castle, denying the shipment point, and now a lot of villagers being idle in this outpost, as well as villagers trying to build the second barracks, not being able to get it up. One thing to note is that these Steppe Riders also have very decent siege damage, absolutely destroying this barracks before it can even be built, and the mass of Aizamk is looking brutal. Obviously not very good against Pikes, so the red counter is there for Ezad, but he should just run these Pikes around for most of the game. So much fighting going on. These Chukanu coming in. I'm going to assume he did ship them in with his shipments, which I'm going to give you guys the vision of. 8 Chukanu being sent in. Very good against pikes, being, you know, some sort of a crossbow unit, which I'm going to assume do have very decent multipliers against heavy infantry. So a 2 times multiplier against heavy infantry. Very decent. Pikes being heavy infantry, of course, but also having 5 movement speed. So easily just going to be able to outrun these 4.5 movement speed heavy Chukanu. What an interesting game. I've never seen a game like this, you know, China versus Brits being played like this. I always see, you know, a heavy H2 mass by China and then just a big fight. And China eventually wins that with the insane remass and just the insane amount of units. And then it just goes on to H3. So I'm very confused that, well, I'm not confused. This makes perfect sense. I mean, why wouldn't you do this? Stepper Riders being just so good at raiding. Stepper Riders also being so good at just being very mobile and also burning down buildings, which the British player is always kind of doing. Like, he has so much wood being sent in and resources being sent in, so you can just easily snipe buildings. Second barracks is very common for the British player. Now you can see Aizamk just constantly going back and forth on these villages, and these villages are dying like butter on a hot knife right now, just being touched and just simply melting away. You can see sinking into the ground. And 29 vills for Aizamk, and I think Ezad might... he's got 40 villages. Just earlier was a little bit less. So it's very hard for me to kind of guess how many villages he's lost at the moment, but I can tell you it's more than 5, that's for sure. And here we have it. He's building this house, immediately goes down, and it also awards Aizamk the free XP. And up there again, that's just the beauty of making Stepper Riders and having such great siege, is that you're constantly finding buildings to burn down, which of course gives you kill XP as well as just kind of delaying the game of your opponent. Brits in this case, Ezad. Pikes now trying to snare to some of these Stepper Riders. A little bit of a misclick for Ace. Almost losing a few Stepper Riders there, but, you know, paying attention fast enough. So he's trying to do some macro, trying to do some work here. Also getting raided on the other side by these Hussar. I don't think they got much. I think it's very hard to raid very hard to raid China due to the fact that they have those villages, which they can just easily kind of go inside of. But maybe picking off a villager with these exposed hunts with those Hussar, kind of missed that. But nice play by Ezad, making that stable and also training those Hussars to get a nice raid in. But so much stuff going on, it's very, very hard to keep up. I mean, these guys are playing full throttle right now, pedal to the metal. Just so much stuff going on shipment wise. Of course, a lot of things being sent in, 700 coin being invested, I'm going to assume, with those Hussar out on the field and more Hussars being trained. And now Aizamk splitting up the Stepper Riders from both sides, also making a decent land infantry mass with the Chukanu as well as these spearmen. And yeah, just trying to kind of, you know, not only be a one-trick wonder in terms of unit composition, but just look at these raids. Oh my god, 3 villages going down there, and on the bottom side, more villages being picked up. Just beautiful micro. He's got, how many control groups must he have? He's got like 4 different control groups, I would assume. In the middle, maybe 2 up here. Another 2 down here. Like, he's got units all over the map pretty much. He has lost a lot of Stepper Riders though, I will say, and he's also lost a lot of Keshik, I would assume. So if his opponent Ezad now decides to make a lot of Hussar, which I'm going to assume he will be, obviously Brits now with 43 vills and also a decent amount of map control. So despite, you know, losing these raids and just kind of being brutalized pretty much with those Stepper Riders in terms of villages, he's actually secured himself a fair chunk of the map, which is quite impressive. But, you know, he's being very aggressive in terms of map control as well, which also results in him losing a lot of villages too. But I do think it's affordable. I mean, he has more villages than China, I would assume. But China might be catching up, you know, if more of those villages fall. I mean, 34 to 44, only 10 villages behind. So I don't think Aizamk is going to have any trouble in killing another 10 villages, especially with those Stepper Riders. Wow, Doppelsoldatness now coming out from the German consulate, and one unique thing about the German consulate is that it also gives him very strong trickles. 1.5 wood trickle, food trickle, 1.25 wood trickle, as well as a coin trickle being available in H3, and then of course being able to use his export to get these Doppelsoldatness, which aren't your average Doppelsoldatness. They're actually called Zweihänder, so it's to be honest, is literally the same thing. So Doppelsoldatner means double sword, pretty much, if I were to translate it. And Zweihänder means 2 hands. So it's like, come on, dude. It's pretty much the same thing. So yeah, Zweihänder, I guess, of course, being stronger. Consulate units from the China embassy, always pretty much being stronger. The Cossacks as well being, I think, different Cossack. So yeah, these are very, very strong units to have in comparison to the units that the British player has, only having pikes and kind of hussar to accompany them. Yeah, I don't know, it's makes sense now adding musketeers. Yeah, looking for a little bit more of ranged firepower. I would assume might just stop spamming musketeers, if I'm honest. Don't think longbow is going to be something that he wants to make. I would assume he's not quite there at max population space, and I'm going to assume he might just want to gather from the faster resources like food and coin. Therefore, the musketeers kind of makes sense. If he has to chop a bunch of wood right now, I think it's going to take him forever to get a decent longbow mass, especially after losing so many vills and losing more vills. Four-stepper rider, which is very interesting. He's getting the right amount of numbers to just melt through these villages, losing all of those four-stepper riders. But better to lose four-stepper riders than 12 or 15, which could have easily been the case. And I like the fact that he's just using all those stepper riders pretty much spread across the map and not suiciding them all on one spot. Now trying to burn down this outpost, denying a little bit of map control for his opponent. Hussars now getting to that lethal mass as well, 13 hussars. So if maybe double trains another 10 hussar, I think it can be very hard for China to deal with. One thing that China assumingly does struggle with is cavalry in H2, or in general. I hear that quite often that China struggles with cavalry units, especially in the early ages of their game. For now, looks like a siege is on the way. Ezad burning down the barracks, also trying to burn down maybe some more buildings. Maybe a marketplace, could even go for the wonder if Ace is not careful. And I don't feel like he has the unit composition to maybe match this. We'll have to see. He's got a lot of Chokanu, but I'm not quite sure how the Chokanu do against Hussar. I would assume they do very poorly. Also, of course, the Qing pikemen, not really the best pikemen in H2. So all in all, I don't know about this, but he does have those Zweihänder, which will be very, very good against Hussar. But I just think the mass is too much. That the cavalry mass of the British player is just too much, and it's understandable because at the end of the day, Aizamk is doing all of this raiding, all of this madness, deleting villages left, right, and center, and still he has the inferior eco. Right? Still he has the inferior eco, and that's just factual right there. 50 villages to 41 villages throughout most of the game, being behind in terms of villager count. Of course, he has the trickles, which he can get, but he hasn't been able to afford so far. Still needs that extra export to come in. And I think maybe if he had those trickles, killed a few more villagers, then I think he would be able to catch up. But, I mean, he's just so close, so close. He's still behind in terms of eco, and you can just see in the mass, Ezad having more mass and feeling very comfortable on the map as well, despite, getting brutalized pretty much all over the map in terms of gathering and villager control. So ideally, Aizamk probably should have aged up. But how do you squeeze an H3 into this? I don't feel like that's possible. I mean, sure, it probably is possible, but I don't think that's realistic, to be honest. I don't know. I don't feel like it's realistic, but I think if Aizamk maybe gets a good fight here, just a decent fight, he doesn't have to win, just a decent fight, so it's kind of a stalemate afterwards, he will potentially be able to age up behind this, and then I think it's going to be a different story. Big fight on the way, but look at this. All of these stepper riders snaring onto these pikes, and the opposite is occurring for Ezad. He's getting all of his cav onto the Chokanu, which is beautiful. The Zweihänder are now in position to kill some of these Hussar, which is fairly okay, but great micro by Aizamk. Now even training Disciples to tank some additional damage. The Zweihänder not being focused down by most of the units of Ezad. Great fight by him. The Hussars being micro to kill the Chokanu. Now the Stepper Riders now being split out on both sides. The Keshik in the backline killing most of these Hussar, which I'm going to assume don't have cav combat, and the Musketeer mass now starting to take over. But look at this. Huge mass of Musketeers versus a fairly small sized mass of Chokanu and Keshik. Who's going to win this fight here? I would assume the Musketeers do have combat on them, yet they have additional attack, so they're going to do very well against the Keshik. But how well would they do against these Chokanu with 108 HP? And I think they will do just fine. Yep, Aizamk actually having to retreat there. So all in all, Ezad winning that fight and just playing his civilization beautifully. I mean, very confident and very assertive that he was going to win that fight. And the micro in that last fight, there was almost like 7 different control groups or something. Like he was splitting 3, probably not even using control groups, like splitting 3 Stepper Riders here, 3 Hussar there, the Zweihänders here on that side. There was so much going on both sides there. And I mean, I'd like to say the first touch, the first connect was better for Ezad. Getting those Hussar onto the Chokanu was just very vital. And of course for Aizamk it was a lot worse because all of his Stepper Riders kind of snaring or getting snared onto by the pikes. Just very unfortunate, very valuable seconds being lost there in that fight for Aizamk. So not taking the best fight, but just great micro behind that, just not losing all of his stuff and still managing to almost break even. But yeah, just a lot of musketeers out in the field. And will he be able to age here? That's the real question. I don't feel like that fight was decisive enough to even buy him enough time to age. And actually sending in the 2 war junks. Interesting. So having an anti-water deck as well, which we kind of failed to mention. Sending in the war junks, hasn't even scouted the water, I'd assume, but just kind of realizing that the only option that Brit really has in terms of gaining food for the later stages would be to go on water. And Ezad is no, he's no scaredy cat. He doesn't fear the great oceans, playing British as well. He's going to take water any chance he gets. And yeah, maybe just leave these hunts for when he has a more comfortable position and just take water for now. Could probably afford it as well. And I feel like if he chops enough wood, he might actually transition to longbows in terms of units instead of these musketeers. But units now upgraded with not only the attack card, but also the HP card. So these musketeers, I think, will do just fine. Very, very good musketeers. Some of the stronger musketeers in Age of Empires 3, Keshik taking out those hussar, and the boats, of course, taking out some of these fishing. So almost predicting the water before it even happened. What a sixth sense this guy has. Absolutely impeccable. Flaming... I was going to say flaming arrows, flamethrowers. Now being trained from Aizamk, you do train them from the castle, but you can also send them in with the Mandarin Duck Squad, I think it is, which he doesn't have in his deck, sadly. Would be very fitting given that he is playing for the Mandarin Duck Squad, right? Shame, 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 shame. Nonetheless, Keshik out on the field, a lot of stepper riders now also being trained in combination with Chokanu also having 44 villagers, so Eco not looking too bad now. So I feel like he might be able to, find a way back into this game despite kind of losing that fight a little bit. If you can even say that. I don't even feel like he lost that fight necessarily. His units are very cost efficient, kind of similar to Russia due to the fact that, he does train large blocks for reduced prices. But now I think it's going to be hard for Aizamk and a little bit easier for Ezad because all of the Azamk's army is kind of out of position and all of these musketeers for Ezad are in prime position to right-click this town center. Look at this, almost 50 musketeers now in Azamk's base, and you can just see they're tearing through the town center hit points, going from 6,500 hit points to 3,000, 2,000 in like no time. And this is a huge blow, and it's very common to see something like this on the map Korea because you're literally one walk away from reaching your opponent's base and just easily going and right-clicking that town center in no time, kind of realizing that the army of Aizamk out of position there, and even going for seconds here, looking to burn down the summer palace as well. So this was a huge blow for Aizamk, and if he were to be aging right now, then it would be understandable that he's going to take a little bit of aggression in terms of base, but he's not even aging. He's age 2 at the moment, I would assume. Maybe we can double check. Yeah, he's H2. Kind of just stuck in H2. So now losing the town center is not going to help him out too much. But I think this map could pretty much go either way because hunts are so scarce on this map. So when both players kind of don't have food, then they're kind of in the same boat. And Aizamk does have the entire water, which he could maybe get if he wanted to. Doesn't have the wood for it though. Oof, looking to fight here. I don't know if this is the right move. Moving in very slowly with the stepper riders. Almost too slowly for my liking. The flamethrowers in the back line doing so much damage to musketeers. Split his army in a perfect synchronization in the middle. Keshik in the back line as well as having the Chokanu just fire on these musketeers. But the longbow addition for Ezad might be the game changer here. Even the hussar in the back line snaring onto these Chokanus as well as trying to focus down these flamethrowers. And wow, this looks like it's going to be a good fight for Ezad. Just too many units here and just too much quality in his unit composition as well. Longbows being way better than Chokanu as well as the musketeers just being so strong with those two cards, and the Keshik not really being able to do much. The hussars already dead and now they're just kind of left there like a soggy biscuit that you forgot in the couch after a amount of days, and it's not really good for Aizamk right now. And I feel like this might be GG. I think this might be the end of Aizamk's China, which looked really good in the early stages, but if he doesn't find a way to bounce into this game, you can see sending in wood but actually not being able to pick it up fully. If he doesn't find a way back into this game, either getting more resources, kind of getting more villager kills, or just wiping the army of Ezad, then it's gonna be really hard to get this game number 2 for the Mandarin Duck Squad, to be honest. Chokanu out on the field, I was gonna say, but it looks like Aizamk is gonna resign in the end, and very unfortunate. I mean, all those raids with those stepper riders throughout the most of the early game, picking off so many villages and then doing so much, and I guess taking a fairly okay fight but just still being behind because I would like to say Ezad did a good job at not losing too many villages, which is, I guess, really important when you're playing the British civilization, and then also securing himself the resources needed for those abundance of villages, pretty much. Therefore, just outscaling in terms of economy, just having the better eco, and then, of course, the Hussars being super strong against China, I think. Let me know what your thoughts are, but so far, 2-0 for the Crusair Management Co. So really, really beautiful play by Ezad so far. And I guess you could say the same about Aizamk. Not really losing, decisively, I would like to say, putting up a big fight in those last 2 games. And now heading into the post-game analysis, make sure you get your Snickers bar from the middle seat of your couch and just tune in with me, and let's check some of these stats out. So resource-wise, we have 25k versus 31k. So we talked about the eco being, different for the British player, of course, but then we also have the military difference as well, which is obviously in China's favor, having more military units, similar to Russia, just cost-effective units, very cheap, therefore being able to spam a lot of them. So 213 for 178. Experience toll, I guess, in favor for Ezad, which is quite surprising because I would like to assume that Aizamk just doing a lot more in the early game with burning down those houses, which do have a lot of kill XP, especially, when they've been completed in terms of building. But even when they're not being built, it still grants kill XP. So interested that he didn't manage to get more XP, but I'm going to assume from the last fighting and stuff, it definitely shifted towards Ezad's side. Timeline-wise, villages is going to be very interesting. And we look at these raids and we think big thing, big thing, big thing, but it really isn't that big, losing 1 villager here, 2 villagers here, 3, 4 villagers there, 5, 6, 7, 8 villagers being lost roughly at 10 minutes. I mean, if you're playing a civilization like Ottoman or something like that, it would be a different story. Or Russia. I think, we saw in the last game how losing villages can be a big deal. But against the British civilization, 8 villages is just nowhere near enough. For some reason, it's just nowhere near enough. Like, 8 villages is nothing to him, I think. That's not what it feels like anyways. Even sending in the villages, I would assume 5 villages coming in. So maybe if you denied 41 to 48 to kill another 7 villages and then sent in some German wood trickles, maybe his eco would have been on par. Imagine him having just an extra few stepper riders in that last fight, or sorry, in the first fight, should I say. Could have been different. So maybe just needing to raid a little bit more, which, I mean, kind of in disbelief. I feel like he did a really good job, but yeah, losing the game and Ezad just too strong. Show you guys the military graph as well. So 70, I think that was this. Yeah, this was the first fight. So both players having the same amount of units, which I feel like Aizamk should have been a little bit higher, or could have been a little bit higher. Maybe could have just picked a better fight, to be honest. Or just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like his units have less quality with all those stepper riders and Keshik, whereas his opponent made a lot of Hussar and then just being on par, losing all his unit mass and actually just, yeah, losing more than his opponent. 46 remaining, 30 remaining. And then the last fight also just getting crushed. Can maybe check out the military pop as well. So Ezad actually being ahead in military unit pop. Yeah, impressive. Would explain. It's just more value in units. Big shout out to Lionheart. Thank you so much for the raid, Lionheart, the best. We watched your games on ESOC before against Give You Anxiety, and you're the best USA player I have ever seen. I just wanted to let you know that, so big shout out to you. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and maybe check if we can find the third game. So, 2-0 for Crusair Management and Co. Very, very decisive so far in terms of score, of course. But, play all 5 is... 5 games can be very exhausting. Let me just tell you, 5 games of this madness. If I'd play like 15% of one game and I'd already be ready to go back to bed. So that just shows you the amount of concentration these high-level players have. Being able to play such high-level Age of Empires 3 and then also 5 games back-to-back. Are you crazy? What kind of NASA brains do these guys have? It's insane. They are so good in terms of, using their brain for the better good, and which is Age of Empires 3, of course. I'm just saying. and just giving us beautiful games at such high level, so much momentum in each game, like so many things to be seen, so many things going on. It doesn't matter if it's split micro or just split rating. It's beautiful. Not sure if I missed a message there. I'm just gonna check my Discord as well. I don't see the live game yet in the ladder. Okay, might have to wait for the next game, I'm gonna assume. So these are, once again, live games. And I mean, big shout out to ESOC for doing live games, because it's always very difficult to watch pre-recorded games sometimes because they are a little bit slower, and oftentimes it takes a long time to watch the pre-recorded games, despite, you know, the live games being slow at times as well. But the live games generally are faster, and they are a little bit trickier because the timeline bug is still existent in Age of Empires 3, but still, you know, taking the risk. And so far it's been going very well, and we've been able to enjoy live casted games. And yeah, I really couldn't ask for more. And especially, you know, Ezad versus Aizamk is such a treat. I don't think yeah, I don't think it could get much better. I would find a few ways to make it better, but it's still pretty sick. And China as well, being played by Ace, such a treat. Such a treat. Now we need to see Ezad play Germans or Portuguese or something. Aufgabe. Yeah, still waiting for the game, so I guess this is a great time to just get your snacks ready. I don't have any snacks, sadly. So just gonna be here waiting all alone. How about a joke? What do you guys think about a good old joke? All right, let me see. So sometimes I don't trust the stairs because they're always up to something. What did the grape say when it got crushed? Nothing. It just let out a little whine. My God. My God. We'll leave that there. I don't want to give you guys too much of my comedy act that I will be preparing for. It's a little side job there. But yeah, pretty good jokes as well as we wait for game number 3. One interesting thing about the Premier League season is that New World Challenges are position 1, if I'm not mistaken, which is very impressive because we watched a game yesterday and it would explain why, because Major Dark played very well in yesterday's series. And I guess now we of course have the Cuirassier management on the side of Ezad versus Aizamk's Mandarin Duck squad. So very important that both players pick up as many games as they can, because they will be awarded points for each victory that they do acclaim. Therefore, you know, trying to rack up as many points as they can to kind of climb the table. Chandler saying, do you know why crabs do not have any money? Because they are at the bottom. Aha! Yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one. Almost as good as mine. Almost as good as mine. That was not bad. I might have to write that one down. Almost. I feel like some jokes are just underappreciated. You know what? I'm just gonna copy that joke real quick. No one has to know. Why did he say Aufgabe though? Oh, it's because I'm half German, so I actually speak German as well. But I'm not going to speak German. I know we have a lot of German in the chat going on, so actually half German. Therefore, I speak fluent German. Hence why Aufgabe was such a correct pronunciation. Lionheart saying, what happened to the frog's car when it broke down? Oh my God. I just realized. There we go. Had the wrong game mode selected. Sorry for the wait, but I feel like it gives you guys time to kind of just recover from the games that we previously just watched. Only 6-second delay though, so game I would assume hasn't been up for too long. So yeah, I hope you guys are ready for game number 3. On Arctic territories. Wow, this is a map we haven't seen in a while, or I haven't seen in a while. I remember this map from the ranked draft pool. I know a lot of old school vanilla Age of Empires 3 players remember this map. I would assume I like this map. I know a lot of people don't like this map, and I also love the matchup. Ezad playing the Germans and Aizamk playing the British. Sadly, the timeline isn't quite ready for us yet, so we jumped into this game a little bit too soon, so we're just going to have to resign and try again. But no issues. It should go really fast, so just stay with me. Try again. Hopefully it will work out. I really appreciate your guys' patience. Thank you so much. Just entertaining yourself in the chats whilst we wait for this third game. And once again, thank you guys so much for being here. Hopefully you had a great day. Hopefully, you know, you woke up today and you found a pot of gold underneath your pillow, or your dream woman decided to send you a text message out of the blue. All of those things I wish for you all. And yeah, hopefully it continues to increase in momentum and your days just get better and better and better and better. And of course, your Age of Empire 3 gameplay remains and excels even, so we can cast more games. Today we did a long stream on the ladder, so I was watching a lot of ranked 1v1 games and casting them on my stream. And we saw, who was it today? I think we saw Kevin versus Alvaro, so it was very beautiful. But yeah, for now, jumping into this game, which is gonna be a treat. Want to welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women, ESOC community. Welcome to game number 3. We have the third game about to commence. Ezad playing the Germans on the bottom side, as well as Aizamk playing the British on the top side. Aizamk in the color blue on Arctic territories. So a really, really cool map. We're going to talk about the map a little bit later, but first of all, I just want to see the opening for Aizamk. Of course, picking up the 30 coin treasure pretty much for free, and also starting with the Manor House and Marketplace opening. So we talked about this last game. We said there's different openings with the British civilization, which, you know, is quite obvious, but in this case, it's the Marketplace opening, which I find quite unusual. Not really something you do all the time. But seeing as he spawned in on a map where he's got, of course, the coin treasure in his base, as well as a lot of other treasures which he can get, I think it's very possible for him, you know, even a wood treasure here, which he hasn't even scouted out. So I think it's very possible for him to go for the Marketplace opening, and then, of course, get the hunting dogs, which he doesn't even need treasures for, right? Marketplace, Manor House doesn't even need treasures for any of that, which is very fortunate when you're playing the British civilization, because a lot of civilizations do need treasures to get the hunting dogs as well as the Marketplace. But yeah, if he finds a very big wood treasure, he can maybe build a second Manor House. If he finds like a 80 wood treasure and like a 30 wood treasure, which is very hard, but instead picking up the 100 food treasure, which is definitely going to help him out in a different spectrum in terms of Age 1 gameplay. But we'll scout the 50 wood treasure and might even find some more treasures. You can see here another 50 wood treasure. So all of this treasure game could definitely increase his wood stockpile, and could potentially add a Manor House to the Marketplace with hunting dogs. Ezad on the other side also kind of doing something very similar, going with the Marketplace, also getting the house, going for the German Marketplace opening, getting his hunting dogs as well. So this is a very, very standard German opening. It's where you currently just mine the coin to then buy the wood for the hunting dogs, and then you have also 100 wood for the house. Something along those lines. So basically leaves him with a house and a Marketplace. Shipment also coming in, I would assume. And with that shipment, gonna most likely send in the 3 settler wagons that he does receive. 2 settler wagons that he does receive, kind of being the value of 4 villages. Sniping a treasure down towards the bottom side of this map, which is not the best treasure, but I feel like it can be really good for Ezad due to the fact that he will be able to scout this map quite easily with that extra kind of unit that he has. Gameplay is a little bit slow there, just due to the fact that it's live casted. It will increase in a second. I'm just gonna make sure maybe I can fix this right now. There you go. It bugs out sometimes. I do apologize. Nothing we can really do about it. So Aizamk picking up some treasures of his own. Can maybe check out some of the treasures that he already picked up. So we saw him pick up the 100 food treasure, and then the 50 wood treasure, which we did see him you know, very close to earlier, and heading in the right direction if you ask me. I mean, he's got 65 wood in his stockpile, and if he finds this as well, he's gonna have a lot of wood to work on, and he's gonna get that extra Manor House very early. I'm just so hyped. It would be cool if he gets that extra villager. I feel like it would be such a greedy opening. It'd be quite absurd if he managed to put it off, but yeah, in this case, just kind of roaming around the map, scouting the treasures. Also just make sure he knows where his hunts are. I think this map is, you know, active with the musk ox as well as the elk, which you do have on the other side. So a lot of hunts on this map, but you do have to herd them in, as pretty much every game, but some maps are just a little bit difficult than others, and I would say this is one of those maps where you do have to herd these in, like almost identical to Korea in a way in terms of hunts, like just in the positioning or like central plains. Yeah, you can already see age 2 transition moving his villager towards these moose and looking to shoot these towards his base, and we'll do the same with these muskox, I would assume. Getting his gangster as well, so something I've seen quite often with these pro players is that they go for the gang saw quite early on, which makes sense. Like if you have the excess amount of food, just go ahead and get the gang saw because you're going to be transitioning onto wood anyways, and you're not really going to need it otherwise, right? Like why would you need the gang saw in the early game unless you're like making wood units, which I'm going to assume he might not be making. I would assume he's going to make musketeers or something like that, or hussar. And it just makes more sense to get the gang saw when you're transitioning all of your villagers to wood. And he'll be on wood for a long time for now, just gathering enough wood to build as many manor houses as he can. The timeline is very... Let me just pause this game for a little bit so it stops lagging. I do apologize. Just want the best content for you. Yeah, I think I may have fixed it. So, both players looking to go to age 2 at a very decent time, I would say. Ezad, age 2, almost 3/4 of the way, or sorry, 1/4 of the way through, getting his gangster as well, as we just talked about very early on. Perfect time to get it. Also herding in these moves, a little bit slower than his opponent, but he will be aging up a little bit slower than his opponent as well. Therefore, transitioning onto wood a little bit later. Also herding in his villages a little bit, his hunts a little bit later. Going for the TP, age 2 transition. So very common for Germany to do is build a TP in the early transition of age 2 because they do excel very well in terms of shipments in the latest. What the 7 cows? Oh my lord! All right, we're gonna leave that for. That's too much. That's too much right now. So yeah, you're gonna build the trading post for now, of course. Leaves him very vulnerable in the early stages. Like on maps like Central Plains, you can easily get like an extra guardian and kind of snipe the explorer of your opponent when he's playing Germany, and you can deny the TP and kind of force him to play H2, right? But in this case, I think it's a little bit harder for Brits, and he even has the Coyote pup, which yeah, it's just gonna actually do the complete opposite to Aizamk, so kind of backfiring for him. Might even lose his explorer if he gets too close. Could build this TP and snap onto this explorer, but I think Aizamk is gonna keep his distance for now, and also aging to the second age, meaning he does have more HP on his William Cook explorer. H2 Aizamk now currently got most of his vills, I would assume, on wood, 5 vills on food, and 2 villages on coin, and setting in the 700 wood, going for an aggressive war hub, or aggressive barrack, should I say, also with the outpost, putting in a very forward position as well, so looking to be very aggressive, which makes sense because Germany likes to go H3. We talked about the trading post having such great value, excelling very well for Germany due to the fact that they have a lot of shipments, and I feel like now that we know what Aizamk is sending in, 700 wood, as well as getting the steel traps and training musketeers from his forward barracks, we can maybe risk another peek at Ezad's deck with those 7 cows. Oof. Explorer might actually go down though, so I'm just gonna make sure you guys catch that. So 7 cows in his deck, 8 crossbows, and a lot of H2 shipments as well. So 600 wood, 600 coin, 700 wood, and 700 coin, as well as the silversmith. So very interesting deck. I feel like this is a good deck. I know a lot of people have an issue with the 7 cows, but also a lot of people don't have an issue with the 7 cows. So it's almost like a war on the cows, pretty much. Like people think it's good, people think it's bad, and there's never really been an answer. I feel like people have done their research, but still it's like always a debate on the cows. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Villager seconds for gathering the cows. Yes, no. Nonetheless, Explorer going down for both sides, 45 XP awarded for both sides, but, you know, obviously going to benefit Germany a little bit more, especially if he goes age 3 at a decent timing. Now sending in the crossbows, which is, you know, slightly unusual. Often at times you see the 3 settler wagons coming in first, or even the 700 wood coming in first, but in this case, it's the crossbows. And yeah, I guess expecting some aggression here from the British player, but I would assume he could just maybe drop down a barracks and just hold it with the Minutemen if needed. I think it would be fine to just do that, but crossbows being sent in, so I'm going to assume he might... I don't want to assume he's going to skip the 3 settler wagons, right? But, I mean, if you send in units, it's always like often that you send in the 700 coin behind that, right? and then just age up. But yeah, no, sending in the settler wagons and of course having the crossbows, so maybe just skipping the barracks in this case. Interesting. Not quite sure about this. I'm not quite sure about this build order. Very interesting. We're gonna have to see what he's got planned so far. Oh, he does have the barracks. Where's the barracks? I can see he's training from barracks. I just can't see where it is. Oh my god. Oh wow, how did we miss this? I completely missed this. 8 crossbows being shipped to the forward outpost, which he did build with his settler wagon. So he's going for a tower rush. This is a combined effort of both players going for 2 rushes on both sides. So musketeers going into the base of Aizamk and also crossbows going into the base of Ezad. So both players kind of just trying to shut down the eco of both each other, trying to snipe some villas. A lot of villagers idle in the town center of Aizamk, as well as Ezad also being slightly idle in his town center, as you can see here. So very interesting. Both players having this similar idea of villager almost going down there to those ulans, which he did receive from his shipment. So nice little raid that we almost missed. Yeah, I'm so sorry about this. Like, this is not my computer or anything. It's just due to the live casting. It happens. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it apart from just wait. It's just been like this quite often. Sometimes if you pause it a little bit, then it helps. So I hope there's not too much of an issue. Just AoE 3 things, DE things. But for now, Grey Coat is being researched by Ezad, kind of realizing that he has to go for Grey Coats, which is unusual. Often at times he forces his opponent to go for Grey Coats, and now he's the one that has to go for Grey Coats. I would assume Aizamk may go for Grey Coats himself, getting idled quite a bit, also getting raided quite a bit as well, not only with those crossbows, but also with those consistent Ulan raids coming in from each shipment that he receives. So more pikes being trained from this barracks, and yeah, also wood being shipped to the forward outpost, which I'm gonna assume that was not intentional. So yeah, still wood being shipped to the forward outpost, but he still has those 2 villages there, and I think he's going to be able to get that with no problem. Even has units out on the field to potentially defend. Musketeers and pikes burning down one house of the German player, which is surely going to cap him. Yep, no population space available, so not going to be able to finish that pike batch, which he was training from his forward barracks. And this game is very unusual. I mean, very unusual. I feel like this is good for Germany, though, because Germany like to play H2 quite often. They have that good eco with the settler wagons, of course, so they're able to just kind of do very well in the early H2 and just have a decent eco very early on. Whereas the British player is, yeah, they're okay in terms of eco in the early H2 when they're playing, you know, with military, but they also kind of need to win fights, right? They also need to expand. So they steady growth in a way, right? So add a manor house here, add a manor house here, add a few units there, build up a big mass, and then just constantly move forward. But I think it's going to be very hard versus Germany, because not only does he get free units from his shipments, but he's also denying villages. He's also very easily to go to H3 behind this, right? And also very comfortable in H2, so he's easily able to kind of defend any sort of H2 aggression. In this case, not really defending, kind of aggression being the best defense in a way, being aggressive to his opponent, kind of forcing the retreat here with these longbows and these musketeers. You can see sometimes the game speeds up and then it slows down. I've had this issue one time with a game. I think it's either the internet connection or interconnection of the players, or just the timeline just not being further enough. So I can maybe pause it one more time and just attempt. It did fix itself after the game was done. So this is still being a live, live played, if I'm to assume correct. Therefore, if I just pause this for a few seconds and wait for the game to end, then it will fix itself. So I've casted many games on the ranked ladder, and I've stumbled across this many times. So maybe just if we wait every now and then, just a few seconds, it could make a difference. I know a lot of people might not want to see the constant stuttering. But I'm also going to take the time to just kind of see where both players are out. Like 21 villages for Germany, of course, with those 5 settler wagons, so being 26 villages, and 28 villages for Aizamk. So you can just see the difference right there. It's not very decisive in terms of eco. And of course, Germany having a few villages less is no biggie when you get 2 free Ulan, right? Or, a lot of free Ulan. It's not really an issue. And then, of course, denying villages for your opponent. So this could go really to the favor of Ezad if he plays this correctly and just does a great job at kind of destroying Aizamk. So I'm going to resume the game and just pray that this will stop in the near future. the For now, pikes being trained from the barracks, as well as more units in the back line here. Some crossbows in the field for Ezad, as well as having those those Ulan available to him, but won't be much use versus pikes and musketeers with their low hit points. Ulan being, a unit that has low hit points, but therefore greater attack. So 37 attack with 190 hit points, meaning they're very squishy, but deal a lot of damage. But Aizamk being a little bit more aggressive here, kind of trying to burn down the front base of Ezad, which could be a huge victory for him if he does manage to get the outpost and the barracks down. But will he be able to do that? Crossbows now coming in, and also no cavalry units for Aizamk to kind of snare these crossbows. Now trying to snare to these crossbows with the pikes, which, yeah, might actually work here. The musketeers now moving up, and this might be really good for Aizamk, because he's going to be able to take out a lot of these very low HP crossbows. A little bit of a raid going on the top side. We can see he's doing the Ulan madness right now. Might pick off a villager which does have great codes activated, but the fight is still on the way. The musketeers in the backline killing some crossbows. The pikes still snared onto the crossbows, and this is looking to be a good fight. Even taking out a settler wagon with pikes. Will he be able to do it? 405 HP for this settler wagon, so could easily just march himself back to base if he wanted to, but maybe not aware of the fact that this is something that's happening. But not looking too great for Ezad, but I would assume that he might be aging very soon. A little bit of a counter raid. Wow, Ezad with the counter raid coming of the musketeers, which is game-changing right here. Able to kill and idle so many vills whilst also winning the fight, whilst also defending raids of his own, and almost picking up a settler wagon. No, actually picking up a settler wagon with 3 pikes. What an incredible play by Aizamk, and yeah, definitely in the lead now. Just this, it crumbled so fast. It was looking so good for Ezad, but then all of a sudden it crumbled. And I feel like the fact that he suicided those crossbows for no need, like he was just so slow to react. You have to remember those crossbows have less movement speed than the pikes. Therefore, it's very easy for these pikes to snare onto the crossbows, and then just giving those musketeers the time to march up to the crossbows and just shoot them down. So yeah, losing all those crossbows and now trying to do something here, but I feel like this is almost an act of desperation, because he's losing his front base, he's lost his outpost, he's lost his barracks almost. I'm gonna be almost 100% sure that is gonna fall down. Sorry about that. Now try to go for a little bit of a raid here with these Ulans as well as these crossbows and these pikes, idling the economy of Aizamk. A lot of warfare going on all sides of the map, and I mean, I'm not quite sure if this is the average game Brits versus Germany. It doesn't really seem like it. Always seems like Germany just goes H3 with a Ulan semi pretty much, but this is completely the opposite. Ezad just playing full H2 and actually paying the price for it. I'd like to assume Germany would be very comfortable in H2, but I guess just losing that fight was huge, and of course getting raided just kind of distracting him. I would assume that raid just kind of it distracted him so long that he wasn't able to kind of focus his attention on these units that he had over here, and then as a result lost them all. Still has his TP, however, but how long will he have this TP? It looks like Aizamk looking to burn this down. I wouldn't be surprised if he marches most of his units in that direction. We see a forward house also being placed next to that front base, so Ezad being very comfortable in that position earlier, but now going to pay the price for fearing some I'm fearing some population space cap for Ezad at the moment. I'm going to assume he might not be capped, but just about having enough population space, so having 8 free population after that house does go down. It's almost like we've reached some sort of stalemate as of now. Both players don't seem to be in the prime of positions at the moment, but I do think Aizamk is in a slight better position, because now he's got a lot of time to kind of work his magic, so he could maybe drop down a stable if he hasn't already, or ship in some of the more greedier cards which he hasn't probably sent in, like Spice Trade, which he is sending in now, which is a very good card. It's going to boost his villager gather work rate for hunted animals as well as berry bushes by 20%. Unfortunate that he doesn't have any bushes on this map, but he does have a lot of hunts to gather from, so definitely a decent card. Doesn't have the maximum amount of population or manor houses, should I say, and he's already sent in the 600 and 700 wood, so it's going to be very hard for him to get those extra 9 houses, giving him those extra 9 villages. So yeah, that's kind of one unfortunate thing, but in this case, just gonna chop maybe more wood, 9 villagers on wood, as well as kind of securing this hunt with these pikes and musketeers for any potential Ulan raids. And maybe check out what Ezad is doing. I would assume he would save up for age up, right? I feel like now would be the perfect time to age up. I feel like he would be able to do that. Not really a lot of military units out for Aizamk, just because his eco really is in the best of spots. 25 vills for Ezad, which is a lot less than we saw earlier. Would assume Aizamk is far ahead. 41 vills for Aizamk, so you can see the villager gap has definitely increased. And I guess it was really good play by Germany, shutting down a lot of Brits' early game eco, just kind of buying himself a lot of time. But now that he's kind of forced to now that Germany's kind of forced to stay in his base due to losing that fight, it's very awkward. Ulan's being trained, sorry, Doppelstone is being trained for Ezad, so a lot of Doppelstone is coming out. This is very expensive play for Ezad, and is this like a all-in? I can't help but feel that this is some sort of all-in strategy right now, that he's just trying to get a big snare to some of these units and go for a big Ulan with these Doppelstoners, which, by the way, can actually have increased movement speed. I think it goes up to 5 with a card, if I'm not mistaken. I do feel like you can get speedy Dops. I've seen a very good player do that before, but 4 movement speed on these Doppelstoners, so might be quite hard to get onto these Musketeers, which have the same movement speed, especially when you're playing against Aizamk, who's so aware. But yeah, trying to go for it, but getting a full surround, as they say, the Aizamk surround coming in. Musketeers from all sides, looking to focus down these Doppelstoners as soon as they come close enough. Even the pikes in the front line, which are just trying to stay onto these crossbows, so they can't kill the Musketeers at any given point. Now Doppel's falling quite low. One Doppelstoner almost dying. The Musketeers killing off the Ulans. One Doppel does fall, and like I said, very expensive play. And the 7 cows coming in. This is a game changer right now. The 7 cows could absolutely do it right now. I feel like this is something that we, definitely needed. 7 cows a little bit earlier would have been great. I feel like the food was definitely needed a little bit earlier, but the 7 cows coming in at the right time. The Doppels also in the front line, but not dying very fast to the Musketeers, and this might actually be okay for Ezad, because he has the settler wagons in his unit composition, which will tank a lot of damage, as well as having the crossbows, which also dish out a lot of damage versus the Musketeers. But I feel like this is very smart play by Ace. He's just kind of staying away from the crossbows and just focusing down these settlers, right? And then he's going to wait for reinforcements, and you can see the longbows coming in the back line, going to be able to deal with the crossbows and the Musketeers, taking off 2 villagers, as well as then, of course, forcing a retreat from these hunts, and now snaring on, or should I say, firing upon some of these crossbows. Longbows doing their magic with their 1.5 rate of fire, but long setup animation, trying to kill most of these crossbows and Minutemen, which are behind the barracks. I would assume 5 crossbows remaining, 4 crossbows remaining, 3 crossbows remaining, and is this going to be GG here? I'm not sure. A lot has been lost for Ezad, and ideally he would be aging, right? Ideally, right now he'd be aging, but the 7 cows just needed to maybe come in a little bit sooner, and I feel like he needed to maybe just not train those Dops. They didn't really give him anything, literally. Like, the Dops just didn't do anything, so it was a risky play, a risky decision for him, and as a result, did face a little bit of backlash from making those double racks, or those Doppels from double racks. Ooh, tongue twisted there. But yeah, a lot of units now being deleted for the side of the German, and you can just see the score difference. And, Aizamk not even too bothered if he loses most of his units, because all of this is just giving him time to kind of do his thing. Maybe chop enough wood for those houses, or just boom, send in some, more expensive stuff, and then just kind of expand himself out on the map. And, as long as he has resources with those abundance of villages, I think he'll be happy. But yeah, I'm so sorry about that last game, but it's just Age of Empire 3 things. I know it was kind of stuttery, but that was game number 3, I would assume. Yes, game number 3. Almost losing my brain here. Just so much madness going on between Ezad and Aizamk. Just doing I don't know, the world a favor, should I say, by blessing our eyes with great gameplay. And looks like Ezad, playing for the Cuirassier Management Co., loses game number 3. That means Aizamk pulling it back, maybe, with the Mandarin Duck Squad. So currently the score is 2-1, and Mandarin Duck Squad looking very fierce in game number 3. So I told you guys, exhaustion is a thing when you're playing this high level. So eventually players do get tired, and we have to see if both of these players, can keep this up, or if they're going to start making mistakes. I would assume 5 games is a lot to handle, but these guys are very experienced, so maybe not so much. But what a game, what a game, what a game. Beautiful game, a lot of back and forth, just so unusual. Like, forget everything you know about Age of Empires 3 pretty much. That's all I have to say. Forget everything you know about Age of Empires 3. This is just something else pretty much. Resource-wise, of course, Aizamk being ahead. Throughout the later stages of the game, I would assume throughout most of the game it was on par. And then in the later stages of the game, it did kind of favor Aizamk a little bit more with all of those villages that he had. But we're gonna head over to the timeline real soon. I think that's gonna be the most interesting thing in this game. Military obviously being very close. So I want to show you guys the villager count. So throughout most of the game, or the first half of the game, Aizamk was barely ahead in terms of villages, like 2 villages, 3 villages. He wasn't even ahead because the settler wagons, right? So he wasn't even ahead until maybe like 7 minutes, where he had like a few more villages than his opponent. So it was like 26 to 28 or something. And this was a great position for Ezad. Had the forward base, had units, had everything working out for him. And then he just lost that fight near his blockhouse, got raided by the musketeers, and it just crumbled. Like everything crumbled. It was literally like whoever loses the units now loses position pretty much. That's kind of how it felt to me. And yeah, Ezad losing his units, lost his position. Outposts going down, barracks going down, getting raided as well. So not really helping him out there. Then just kind of snowballing, losing his trading post, and then just getting idled as well. And I mean, he could have maybe just backed off and tried to H, but I feel like the British player would have just right-clicked his base. But then again, Aizamk didn't have a lot of eco, so I'm not quite sure if he could have done that. Because you could just see, like, Aizamk took a huge loss throughout most of the game, losing villagers and being idle, and then also taking, you know, fairly meh trades. So he wasn't in the best spot either. Just really came back by winning that fight. So yeah, I mean, even in the later stages, he wasn't actually that far behind Ezad in terms of resources. Only really, you know, the last 2-3 minutes where Ezad pulls ahead with all the map control that he's gained and all the freedom, should I say. But once again, sorry about that last game. I know it's a little bit laggy, but there's nothing we can do about it, really. I experienced this on different devices, not just on PC. I've tried it on 3 different computers. It's just live casting. Sometimes the internet connection is just weird, or it just kind of bugs out. And you could see in the games before, which were live casted, they were smooth as, you know, I was going to say a poor joke, but I'm just going to leave it, to be honest. I'm going to leave it, and we're going to head over to the 4th game. Hopefully it's going to be up. We're going to have to see if it's ready for us. I'm going to go with the spectator mode. Make sure I put the right game mode in. And yeah, it looks like we do have game number 4, but it's on the same map. So I'm going to assume this is a little bit of a... There we go. There, refreshed. Beautiful timing. Almost like they know we're watching, right? Weird. Almost like they know. I feel like they know too much. All right, just going to update the score real quick. And I hope I activated more info in the last game. Apologize if I didn't. Where's the cow graph? Oh my god, Zach McKay asking where's the cow graph. Do we have the discussion on the cows? Yep, I'm not quite sure. What did you guys think about the cows? Did we come to some sort of conclusion? Are the 7 cows good? Are they bad? How do you guys feel about the cows? Big shout out to Kavana TV, big shout out to Adnor, Joro Hamo, Chandler. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Chandler saying, do you know, kind of missed a joke. The chat kind of erased itself. I apologize. I'm going to have to scroll up later and see what joke that was. Let me just see. I have my chat loaded up as well on the right side. So many messages. You guys are typing so much. But Chandler saying, do you know why the older people just stay in base and build up? Because they are all boomers. Clutch. Chandler coming in with good jokes right there. I appreciate that. Very good. Very wholesome joke. Alright, just gonna make sure everything's okay. Also gonna take a sip of water, just give me 2 secs. My voice getting a little bit dry. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hoping this game is going to run a lot smoother, and it already looks a lot smoother than the previous one. So once again, thank you so much for your understanding. Thank you so much for your patience, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure this game becomes one of the best experiences of your life. So let's jump ahead and go to game number 4. Aizamk versus Ezad. Playing on the map Dakota, I would assume, or Texas. One of these maps. Dakota. There we go. Got it right. Boom. Playing on the top side of the map, we have Ezad in the color red, playing as the Portuguese, currently doing a really nice job at securing these bison around his town center. These guys do like to wander rough, and yes, also building his house as well. So no 10-10 strat, it seems, by Ezad, and I know Ezad loves Portuguese. He's a very decent player, obviously, but he also loves playing Portuguese. I've seen him play Portuguese quite often, so I would assume he's very comfortable in this position, and yeah, maybe just gotta have fun with it and just do as much as he can. On the other side, we have Aizamk playing the Germans. So something we saw last game was Ezad playing the Germans, actually losing game number 3 to Aizamk playing for the Mandarin Dutch squad. So this could be a turn of affairs here. Aizamk could kind of show Ezad how it's done and kind of, yeah, just pull this one back. I mean, it's 2-1 right now. 2 games left, everything's possible. Who's going to win this series? That's the real question, and it's already very close, and like I said, even in the games that Aizamk lost earlier, wasn't quite decisive. So yeah, I think Aizamk is definitely going to give Ezad a run for his money. For now, both players doing the most. You can see marketplace being built for Aizamk, going for a very similar opening as we saw in the previous game, as well as building the house, and of course now doing a great job at herding in these bison. So Ezad looking to maybe get a nice little treasure here. In this case, he's picking up a tomahawk, which is pretty much given to him for free. I'm just going to change them. Maybe given for him for free, but you can see Aizamk kind of hovering around this treasure, it seems, looking to maybe pick up the tomahawk for himself. Only has to kill this guardian, and it looks like the red explorer a little bit too close for comfort, but nonetheless gonna get the tomahawk. And yes, well played indeed. So extra tomahawk for him, and you might think to yourself, okay, it's just a tomahawk, Len, calm down. Why are you getting so excited? But one thing to note is that Ezad is playing against Aizamk, right? And Aizamk is playing Germany, meaning he's going to be able to TP in transition, right? So with this extra tomahawk, he's going to be able to do additional damage to the explorer, which might fall even lower if he decides to pick up a treasure, which is very unfortunate because, you know, he wants a treasure, but he also wants to build the TP. So he needs to make a decision. Does he keep his explorer very high HP and then is able to build the TP regardless of how many units the British player picks up? I know it's lagging again, I apologize, just gotta have to get through this, hopefully it gets better. Or does he decide to kind of just go a little bit more greedier and get some of these treasures? I mean, of course, he could kite them quite well. These bear treasures, very easily kited, can obviously crack shot one of them and take them down, and then also benefit from the fact that he could pick up a treasure. In this case, picking up a bear treasure, so I like the thought process behind this, picking up a bear treasure to kind of counter the tomahawk. So very smart play by him, and yeah, just expecting that there might be some assault on his explorer later when he tries to build that TP. Ezad now sending an ATP as well as having 12 villagers out on the field. ATP coming in, might build his first TP very soon. Has the 100 wood stacked up. Often at times you see the early TP and no house. So often the Portuguese would skip this house and go for a TP instead and go for a 10-10, meaning they would get a very early age up but then also a very early TP. But I think it's more beneficial on water maps. I think that's the only time you would necessarily do it, if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, picking up a stray dog as well. So looks like the army of Ezad looking a little bit more better, should I say, than Aizamk's army. Aizamk on the other side, looking to maybe pick up an 80 food treasure with his bear that he did get. Is already aging up, I would assume in the next few seconds. Could cancel that villager. Going up with 18 population, which I don't think is usual. I think you go up with like less. But I guess with this food treasure, he can go for the extra villager. Why not? And his age up time is still going to be very decent. So going to age up roughly around 3 minutes. A lot of civilizations age up a little bit sooner, but in this case, I think it's going to be fine. Now that food treasure coming in, 3-minute age up, and also now going to switch most of his villages on to wood. Also going to get the gangster with that food treasure, I would assume. Doesn't even have to leave his settler wagons on to food for extra time. Is he going to transition onto wood, I would assume, very soon and just go towards this TP where he's surely going to build the first TP of the game, or should I say the first TP of his game, because on the other side, Ezad has already been busy bees. He's building 2 TPs, 1 TP with his explorer and 1 TP with his villager. You have to remember he did send in the ATP card, making his trading posts a lot cheaper, so 80 wood cheaper in total. and they also become a lot stronger, so have more HP and also have a range attack to assist them. Let me check out some of the other things that Ezad is doing. Don't see a marketplace being built for Ezad, which definitely makes sense. I guess he's going for a very greedy build for, you know, the entire stagecoach. And look at this, Ezad already expecting a TP to be built somewhere across the map, roaming in with his Tomahawk as well as his Schäferhund. There's your German, trying to pick off the Explorer before he even gets close to the TP, but now getting distracted by this one bear. And maybe this is the time that Aizamk kind of needs to kind of, you know, get this TP down. His Explorer very low, 127 HP. If these Tomahawks and this Haudenosaunee Tomahawk was, this Tomahawk and the Schäferhund was close to this Explorer would die, I'm pretty sure. I'm very sure he would die. So very lucky there, I would assume. Very lucky there. In this case, getting distracted by that band. Just gonna chase the bear down. Interesting. Going for the native post as well, which does have Cree allies, so you're able to train Cree CDB on this map, and almost feels like it's a little bit premature. I find it hard to believe that he's going to be training from an extra town center and then also a trading post this early on. I don't know. I find it kind of hard to believe, but, you know, prove me wrong. He does have the stagecoach, which potentially could come in. But look at this. He's going for both native posts. This is interesting. What can we expect here? This is, okay, very unusual. I have not seen anything like this. I feel like it's very unusual to go for both natives. One native, okay, but two? Just gonna check his deck as well, just to make sure. Okay, so he has the native treaties in his deck. So for every native post that he has, he will receive a shipment of native warriors. So this makes perfect sense. And of course, having the two TPs up, is gonna have a lot of XP to kind of, you know, get that shipment back, which means he's going to send this in, and then by the time he sends this in, he's probably going to have another shipment ready due to the fact that these TPs do generate a lot of XP for him, as well as building a barracks, shipping in the 700 wood, going to get a lot of XP from all these buildings. So XP rolling in right now, and yeah, I think this is a really good build order from Ezad, and this is looking to be very promising. And now the Explorer now finally under attack, but a little bit too late here, kind of getting the second TP in very sneakily. Looks like 116, 84 HP. Will he go down before building this trading post? That is a real question. Almost. Oh, that was close. That was very close, but he does get it up in the end. But could have happened at this first TP if that bear hadn't been in play. So Ezad not really doing the best job there. Kind of getting distracted too much. But nonetheless, Aizamk 2 TPs now for himself, claiming the TP line or half the TP line. Which is definitely needed in terms of, you know, stagecoach or something. I'm pretty sure this is a TP line where if you get the stagecoach on one side, it works for both sides. So, you know, one stagecoach on one side could benefit Aizamk. Now I'm going to pick up this villager treasure with his Schäferhund as well as his Tomahawk. Very nice treasure to pick up. An extra villager. Who's going to say no to an extra villager? I love these treasures on this map, but very unusual spawn. Sometimes this treasure spawns over here. So I played a game recently where it spawned over here. So it seems like very biased to where it spawns, to be honest. Also sending in the native treaty card as well as training pikes. And like I said, these native posts simply just going to be there to give him those shipments from his native treaty. So want to see where he's going to have those military spawn out of. And then we're going to switch to Aizamk. Going to get those Cree trackers as well as those Comanche horse archers. So I'm not sure if that seems worth it. Does that seem worth it to you? It doesn't feel like that's completely worth it. I mean, that was barely any units. Why did he... I know it has been nerfed in the previous patch, but this is, I guess, 3 horsemen and like 5 trackers for 2 TPs. Something's not adding up there. Something's not adding up there. I feel like Aizamk will easily clear this with a few crossbows. And yeah, as a result, the crossbows coming out from the barracks, which he did build. More crossbows coming as well. Hasn't sent in any crossbows. Going for a raid as well, which almost worked. He almost killed a few vills, I would assume. No grey coats out for the Portuguese player, I would assume. But does have these Ulans ready. And now Aizamk trying to raid some of his opponent's villages, which are very exposed, idling a big chunk of the Portuguese economy. I would assume that maybe Ezad just making these units because he doesn't really want to train units from the barracks, right? He just want to buy himself. He just want to buy himself a little bit of time, I would assume. But it just doesn't seem like this is gonna do much for him. Like 10 crossbows will clean this, I'm pretty sure. And then the Explorer Snare, I would assume. Of course, you have those trackers which are like skirmishes. At the end, I think all of those Ulans do go down from Aizamk. So Ulan's not really getting the maximum value, but he does get them for free, so he's not going to be too worried about losing those Ulans, and is just training more crossbows with the 700 wood that he did ship in, building more houses, as well as maybe getting his steel traps very early on. No, still hasn't got his steel traps, but does have his hunting dogs. Trading post under assault here by some of these pikes, as well as some of these other units, Kree trackers and these Comanche horse archers. Curious to see if he maybe trains more of these Kree trackers. I feel like that would be very decent against crossbows, and then he just needs to make anti-cav. They do have 18 range, so more range than these crossbows. 16 range for these crossbows. Maybe check the movement speed as well. So same movement speed for both units. Trading post falling fairly low, 513 HP. No stagecoach for both sides, which is, yeah, kind of obvious. Crossbows being sent in from Ezad, which is very, very interesting. Having all of that XP, making him kind of, you know, not being able to send in a villager shipment, forcing him to send in those 8 crossbow with the crossbows that Aizamk has made. And will he be able to take this fight here? The Explorer coming in to kind of snare onto these units, but I'm not sure about this. More reinforcing crossbow coming in for Aizamk, and it feels like H2 Germany is just more comfortable than H2 Portuguese, because ideally what Portuguese wants to do right now is just boom. He doesn't really want to make units. Ideally what he would like to do is just stay in his base and just make villages and just ship in eco cards pretty much, but he can't do that against Germany, because Germany will just make a lot of units H2, idle him, raid him, and just mess his game up so much. So the play of Ezad makes sense, but it doesn't make sense that he's sent in the native treaty card, because that didn't seem like it was worth it. I feel like he could have sent the crossbow in earlier, and then maybe all the wood in earlier, and then just made units and then just kind of save that shipment. But nonetheless, looking to hold here. Very beautiful mass by him, and all he really needs to do is buy himself time, because he's on 23 villages and he's double training from 2 town centers. So the longer this goes on, the better his eco will be, even though he is playing against Germany, which do have very decent eco in the early game with those extra settler wagons, or extra villages should I say. So he definitely needs a lot of time to work with. So I like the Minutemen pop, but I'm not sure if it's a little bit too premature. I think he could have just held that with maybe just an extra crossbow batch, which he could have maybe gotten out. But you can see his resources are scarce. He is broke. Very, very broke. Sending in the coin next, but just no resources to train crossbows. And you can just see, like, most of the units for Portuguese just, it feels like they're a bluff, really. Ideally, what his opponent should do is just train, like, a lot of Ulan, and then just kind of kill this Ul. I feel like if he just drops down a stable now, trains a few Ulan, like 5 Ulan, it would just be such a blow. Even if he doesn't wipe it, it would be such a blow to Ezad, so the next fight would be very hard for him. But I guess Aizamk investing so much into his infantry mass already, is kind of hard to drop down a barracks, stable, I would assume. If this was me, I'd just buy 100 wood, drop down a stable. But nonetheless, no stagecoach for Portuguese, which is going to hurt him quite a lot. I feel like he would love to have a stagecoach trickling in wood at this point. But he doesn't have that. So, yeah, just resources not really there for him. And Germany yet to send in those 8 crossbows, which is kind of his peak in H2, right? Having units being made from your barracks with your good eco, and then also sending in crossbows, as well as receiving 2 Ulan. Like, it's starting to get scary. It really is starting to get scary, I would assume, for Ezad. And I don't feel like he can hold this just purely with the eco that he has now. Like I said, ideally he needs the stagecoach. Yeah, once again, I'm going to say that this is lagging. This is not my PC or anything. This is just live games. I would assume it's because both these players are on a server that is kind of like trying to reach both of them. So I know that I think Ace lives in Malaysia, whereas Ezad is German. So you can obviously just kind of see where that's going to head in terms of watching games. So we had like really 2 smooth games in the beginning. And I promise you, it's not my PC. It's just, yeah, it's just the connection. It's just Age of Empires. I've had this problem quite often. With a really, really good PC. So that's all I can say pretty much. I hope they fix it in the future. The timeline also still bugs out quite often. So just need to clarify that there's literally nothing I can do. I could restart the game and it would still be the same. The only thing I think would make a difference if I rejoin this game when it's already done, or if I cast it when these guys have already finished. Pretty much that's the only thing I can do, sadly. So just to clarify. Nonetheless, sieging down the town center with the Doppelsoldners. So 8 Doppelsoldners out on the field for Aizamk, and you can just see the amount of damage that he's doing to the town center. So falling very low, 2k HP, 1k HP, and like I said, starting to look very scary for Ezad. We talked about his units being a bluff, right? I said he doesn't have the eco to kind of back this up. So just 5 Ulans right here could just be the huge difference that we see, and it is. And I like the musketeers from Ezad, but is it gonna be too late? Because now not only does he not have the best eco, so it's like what, he's 30 vills roughly. Oh my god, all of the villages were in the town center? Yeah, no way. GG. Oh my god. Wow. Just to clarify, like, look at this, 27 vills with the 5 settler wagons means he has 5 vills extra. So it'd be like 32 villages versus 33 villages. So his eco's on par with the German player. And now he's lost his extra town center, meaning his eco's gonna, suffer even more because he's not got that advantage. And now he lost all those villages, which is pretty much obvious why he resigned. And yeah, Germany's eco just seems to be on par with the Portuguese eco with the 2 town centers at this point. And then he also gets those free Orlands as well as having decent unit shipments in H2, right? And then also just impeccable H3 timing behind this. So yeah, I don't think that native treaty thing worked. Just didn't seem very valuable. Like getting 2 shipments, it's like 6 units pretty much. They've nerfed this card so strong. It's actually scary. Not quite useful, but great play by Aizamk. And wow, bringing the score up to 2-2. What a game. What an interesting game. So Croatian management now on par with the Mandarin Duck squad. So 2-2 in the end. What a beautiful play. What a beautiful game. And what a beautiful series so far. And this is going to be exciting. The last game is going to be pretty much match point. Even though every victory matters in these games, match point is still very, interesting to see who's going to win this series overall. So heading into game number 5, I'm definitely going to have high expectations. Maybe we can cast a replay instead so we don't have the lag issue. Resource-wise, 10k for Aizamk, 8k for Ezad. So you can just see behind in terms of resources, which is just so surprising. I think those seller wagons just kicking in a lot sooner for Ezad. Therefore, actually having... the seller wagons kicking in a lot sooner for Aizamk, meaning his eco's a lot better, a lot faster, whereas Ezad's more like a slow burner, a slow roller, should I say. So you can see, just to show you guys what I mean, you can see maybe Aizamk pulling ahead in the early game with the seller wagons, but then, more villages Ezad receives with the 2 town centers, the better it's going to get for him. But losing villages here, getting raided, it just takes a toll on him as well. So Germany just being so much better in terms of H2 play in this specific game. How many villages did he lose? Villages? I'm going to assume he was idle. That's what that dent was. So he didn't actually lose a single villager in that game, but did get idled quite a bit. So those dents that we see in the graph over here, right here, is him being idled. So he would have maybe pulled ahead in terms of resources, but due to the fact that he was idle, he's just behind and, yeah, just struggling ever since. Just Aizamk just out-gathering so decisively. Settler wagons just go to resources and they're done for most of the game. Just gather so fast. I think that's pretty much it, I guess. Military fight, of course, didn't really break out. There wasn't much fighting going on. You can see most units still alive for both players. It's really just a better unit composition with those extra resources. And those great idols with those Ulans. So yeah, really good game. Hope you guys enjoyed game number 4, and I'm gonna head over to game number 5. Thank you so much, Henry Knox. Gonna fix the score of game number 5. And once again, oh, I apologize. So there we have it. So it's actually... I'm not a biased caster, I promise. Not biased caster, I promise. So it's actually 2-2. I really apologize for that one. Also, I'm going to try and make this game work. I'm just going to maybe wait till the players have played a decent amount of the game. I don't know. Maybe could wait for recording as well and just record a recorded game, which would be way better. There'll be no, like, stuttering. Maybe they finished this game already. So Florida is the last game. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here. Hopefully you've enjoyed most of the cast. So every single game that we've casted today has been live. Had more success in the early stages. The server is West India at the moment. So interesting. West India server. Okay, very interesting. Kind of as we predicted, both players being, far apart. But yeah, hopefully you are enjoying both this series and yesterday's series that we casted on ESOC. And yeah, great games so far. Ezad versus Aizamk. Just so much fighting going on. So much different stuff going on. Like different strategies being used. We saw the native strategy in the last game that just didn't seem to give Ezad the edge that he may or may not have been looking for. And Aizamk just playing really good. You can never really underestimate him, even though a lot of the games he does a lot of weird stuff which doesn't seem that useful. Like oftentimes I see him do the native scout rush with Lakota, which I think is just kind of not good anymore. But it's like he can still win the game pretty easily just due to him having such high APM and just such great micro. So yeah, it's beautiful to see him play, and the same could be said about Ezad. Just such brain power and beautiful decision making. You can tell by his strategy in the last game he expected that to work out for him, but the thoughts were there, but just I don't know, card being nerfed wasn't strong enough. So maybe head into game number 5. Just really scared is gonna lag, sadly. Can we check in on Reezy game? We're preoccupied with Aizamk and Ezad. I think we were spoiled for choice right now. And yeah, this game's gonna be really good. 5 games have been casted almost. So the last game coming in now in the Play All 5 series. Corsair Management Co. on the side of Ezad versus Aizamk, number 5 Mandarin Duck Squad, playing his absolute heart out in these last games, pulling it back, being 2-0 behind, now 2-2 on par, and this is going to be a good one, guys. Robo Burrow saying, why does the score say 2-2 now when it was 3-0 10 minutes ago? That was an error. For some reason that was an error. It was 2-0. It was 2-1. Yeah, Aizamk won the second game, and Aizamk won the third game and the fourth game. That was my error. I kind of missed the score. So it's 2-2 now, just to clarify. 2-2. There you go. So game number 5 being match point. 5 wins in total, being able to accumulate throughout most of the series. Now we have Aizamk playing the Brits. Once again, we saw him play this just earlier on the map Arctic Territories. Now he's playing it again, and yeah, playing on Florida as well, going for the marketplace, which he already has, and the house as well. So might just get the early hunting dogs and just build a teepee. It looks to be, yeah, building a teepee. So very unique thing to this map is that you do start off with a marketplace, therefore not having to invest the wood into the building itself, and we'll be able to get an early hunting dogs combined with the trading post. So really nice play by Aizamk, kind of realizing that he has this potential on this map, and now going for the hunting dogs surely as well. You can see most of his villagers on coin, most of his villagers on wood as well, and he will be gathering enough for that 50-50 split of wood and coin for the hunting dogs. On the other side, Ezad in the color red, playing the Ottoman civilization, also most likely going to go for the hunting dogs, which he luckily already has. So he already gone ahead and went for the hunting dogs, and yeah, also could potentially pick up a TP if he wanted to. He has 200 wood. Could also, go for the TP and mosque, seeing as he does have 5 villages on wood at the moment, but I think he's going to start with the dock instead, which makes sense. Going for the dock start, already actually built the dock and has 200 wood available, so you can just see the Ottoman wood start is just so wood heavy, and he's actually able to just queue up 2 boats and kind of do something similar to the Haunashani. So I would say this is the OG water build in Age 1, right, with the Ottoman dock in the early stages, and is able to then train the boats very early on and kind of age up at a very competitive time, despite making a dock and also despite making boats and having villages on wood. Aizamk on the other side, just scouting pretty much some of the map. One great thing about the map Florida is that you do have a lot of sheep as well to be gathered, and I think, yeah, I think a lot of players kind of underestimate how much livestock you have on live on Florida or Sanguine. There are a lot of sheep to be had. I think it's like 5-6 sheep on this map, kind of hidden away. You can see 2 sheep here, another 4 sheep here, and we talked about underestimating, but Ezad maybe just finding the value in these livestock, having 4 sheep already, could maybe get this last sheep that he could get in the mid map. I say last sheep, but we see another 2 sheep over here, so a lot of resources that you can pick up. Aizamk going for the food treasure on the upside of his base, 40 food guarded by 1 banded blowgunner, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, does Aizamk expect Ottoman to go Age 1 water, right? Ideally, what he needs to know is that Ezad most likely is just going to train 4 or 5 boats, and then just pretty much leave it like that. I don't think he's going to expand himself like fully on water and just go absolute hammerlam on water. He's just going to chill on water pretty much and then kind of wait it out. And if the game goes on longer, then of course he's going to take full water. But I don't think that's going to be the case in the early stages. So Aizamk kind of needs to realize what's going on. And I think he does. And I hope he just shuts down the water at a decent time. Sometimes it can be too late and sometimes it can also be too early, in my opinion. You know, if he needs units, he might send in those 2 caravels instead and then just lose all his land base. But kind of jumping the gun for now. And yeah, just going to check out some of the treasure gain for both sides. We did see a treasure being picked up from Ezad as well as from Aizamk picking up that 40 food treasure. Now going to the 80 food treasure guarded by 2 alligators. Was Ezad picking up a different treasure, so an 80 wood treasure being picked up, 1 pirate being sniped, and the blowgunner put into melee. So one interesting thing here is that if you do put the blowgunner into melee, you take reduced damage. So you can see Ezad doing the right thing here and going ahead and killing this blowgunner very effectively. Might actually eat those sheep to go to the second age just to get a really decent timing due to the fact that he has been on water, right? So he's obviously kind of delayed his age up with this dock. Sometimes you get a competitive timing with this dock, but sometimes depending on the treasures, depending on, you know, how you play it in age 1, your timings can be messed up and you can age up a lot slower. But in this case, he's eating a sheep to kind of get that good timing in and aging up at 2 minutes and 40, which is insane. Very, very good timing for him with the Ottomans. So gotta be very, very, very comfortable with that age of time. Also aging up with the governor, getting his gang sword very early on once again. So kind of the moral of today's cast, pretty much get your gang sword every time you transition onto wood, if you can afford it. It just feels like it makes sense. It feels like you get so much more wood out of the gang sword if you get it at a decent time. Also, the Donor Ezad explorer roaming the map of roaming the side of himself, kind of trying to find where his hunts are, it seems, looking to maybe look for a TP. I'm not sure if he's going to build a TP here or in his base, but definitely wants to scout this area, needs to find his hunts. If we turn off the fog of war, we can potentially see that he definitely has scouted different parts of the map. He sees this hunt as well as this hunt and kind of deciding where he's going to put that TP, I would assume. Maybe also just waiting for this treasure to be able to be stolen, I would assume. 2 alligators going to be sniped here from Aizamk. 1 alligator very low, and yeah, Aizamk just kind of waiting this out. So I'm going to assume he did want to be the TP, but now that he's found this TP being contested by his opponent, he's just going to go ahead and steal it, it seems. But will Aizamk reset this alligator? No, it's being sniped by Ezad as a result, picking up the 80 wood, or sorry, that 90 coins. So definitely a decent treasure to pick up, and now he's going to build the TP, I'd assume. Where is he going to build it, though? There we go. Build it back towards his home. So nice little defensive TP there. Maybe that's going to be the story of Ezad's strategy, that he's just going to play H2 defensively a little bit and maybe just go to the H3 and play it out from there. That could, of course, be the possibility. So Aizamk now kind of expanding his base, building a manor house quite far out, and I feel like he's very aware of the fact that Ottoman is going to play this a little bit more passively. Therefore, building his manor houses pretty much all across the map, hiding in some of these very forward hunts, maybe looking to these side hunts as well. And let me just check if he has caravels in his deck. I feel like now would be a great time to maybe send in those 2 caravels and maybe just drop down a barracks and just shut down this water just straight off the bat. Obviously, he's going to leave him very exposed to any sort of H2 Ottoman play. But I think the sooner you get rid of this water, the harsher it's going to be for Ottoman. I think the better for the British player. But then again, there's no real need. I don't think Aizamk, obviously playing the British civilization, having the abundance of villages, his eco is just going to be so much better than the Ottoman eco. And now that Ottoman has kind of decided to play a little bit more passively, I think the British player is going to capitalize on that, I would assume, and maybe just go very aggressive in terms of eco and then also build units as well and punish the fact that Ottoman is not only having a slightly less eco, but also kind of a slightly less military advance. Once again, I have to say that the game speed is based on the fact that the the timeline is kind of bugged. It's not nothing we can do about it, sadly. Like, I can swap through all of these. I can restart my game. It's because it's live casted, it lags. It's a bug in Age of Empires 3. I've kind of been talking about this quite a lot on my channel, and just kind of trying to bring awareness to these bugs. They do happen in ranked spectator mode as well, so just gonna clarify that that's what that is. Nothing really we can do, just pray that it gets fixed. It happens sometimes, and I think it's because of both players just being far ahead in terms of where they live, and me as well. But for now, I'm going to jump back into this game. Big shout out to Sketchy Pineapple. And I'm going to go ahead and check out the 100 coin treasure being picked up by Aizamk, and also the steel traps being researched from this marketplace, as well as being sending in 700 wood, having the CM in his deck, as well as potentially could send in the 5 villagers or 600 wood next. But instead sending in the musketeers. And did he age up with the governor? I don't think he did. I think he aged up with... No, he did age up with the governor, so you can see the outpost for Aizamk is out on the field, and he's most likely going to ship those musketeers to this outpost and look to shut this down before the start. This could be an early GG, guys. I think this could be actually really, really big for him. If he gets those musketeers out with the 6 musketeers that he's sending in and kills those 5 janissaries, I feel like he's going to then be able to control this barracks and the stable, and that's going to be huge. Like, Ezad doesn't even want to play H2, right? Ideally, he just wants to kind of, capitalize on these 5 boats and send in the coin and ideally go H3. I feel like that's something he wants to do. Now, building the mosque was quite scary. He didn't have a lot of XP income, which is something that Ottoman do quite well with, XP income. But then again, did build the training post in transition, so gonna have a lot of XP gain. But look at this, the musketeers now coming out, killing some villages here. Nice little scout by him. Explorer should be in this fight, I would assume. Aizamk might have to bring his Explorer back, but instead kind of just going ahead and leaving his Explorer out of the fight, waiting for those 6 musketeers to pop. And when those 6 musketeers do pop, I feel like he's gonna get a nicer round on these 5 janissaries, and a little bit of late pop there. Nonetheless, I think he's going to be able to train more units than the Ottoman. Training pikes, 5 pikes coming out for Aizamk, which is quite strange. Never mind, not so strange. Of course, he scouted the stable. The Hussar coming out. Now those pikes getting snared onto by these pikemen. Now these Hussar getting snared onto by these pikemen. Going to be actually denied a lot of HP, as well as these janissaries now kind of outmassed by these 5 on 10 or 11 musketeers. Now, only 5 janissaries to defend this. Could be quite awkward. Does have those 3 hussars to tank some damage, but I don't think he's going to be able to want to fight this. The villager do go down. 1 villager does go down. The second villager is still alive on full HP. The explorer now staring onto some of these musketeers, falling quite low as well, called Dona Ezad, giving the British player 45 XP, as well as, of course, now Aizamk scouting the dock action, which I'm going to be assuming he might burn this down, which I guess is a great play by him. But it's not going to be the biggest play of this game, because he also needs to kill these boats, right? That's the main thing. The dock has been inactive for the last, I'd say, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So the dock going down right now doesn't really mean anything to him. Also building that dock with the free resources that he got from his starting crates. 5 janissaries versus 5 musketeers. Trying to get a cheeky pick off on some of these musketeers. Bring them down low. 50 HP on 1 musketeer. Just trying to kind of slim down the numbers. But now the cavalries have been sent in for Aizamk. And this is a okay timing, I feel, because he's obviously sent in the musketeers. So his military mass is fairly decent. So he's kind of able to hold land. And now he's able to deny this water play by Ezad. And yeah, I think this is going to be really good for him, and great timing as well. The dock going down just as Ezad is trying to siege down this barracks. So Aizamk trying to come in behind here with some of these pikes, trying to stay onto some of these Hussar, but I'm sure Ezad is aware and is going to pull back. Longbows coming out of the barracks. This could be a huge game changer here. The extra longbow would definitely help versus these very high HP janissaries, but Ezad very slow to react, losing 2 Hussar to the pikes, as well as losing a lot of HP on the not only the janissaries, but also the last remaining Hussar that is in the unit composition for Ezad. So Ezad just kind of getting outplayed slightly here, or just making too many mistakes and losing a lot of units for it. And like I said, now the military mass for Aizamk is looking very decisive. Having more military units out on the field means that I feel like he's going to be able to control this area, which would mean he might be able to then burn down these stables and this barracks, and it's going to be very hard for Ezad to then kind of contest the military and then also rebuild them with no wood potentially. Check out what Ezad is doing on the top side of the map. So Ezad on the top side of the map is kind of just not really doing anything, holding on to a shipment as of now. Not really sure what he wants to send in. He shipped in those 5 Janissaries, so he didn't even make those Janissaries. Like 50% of these Janissaries is pretty much something he sent in, just to show you. Like I was kind of thinking as well, like that's a lot of Janissaries. Wow. So last 3 games, looks like Ezad just kind of falling out of touch. The first 2 games were beautiful, but the last 3 games are struggling so much against Azam's beautiful play. And I guess this was an early defeat. Like I said, early GG was something that I did kind of see this game heading towards, just based on how well Azam played, almost like out, playing his opponent mentally, like realizing that if he ships in those musketeers, he's gonna have more units, and then also a better eco as well if he shuts down the water. Just being Brits, having of course more villages, 26 villages to 20 villages, even with 2 or 3 boats still remaining. So his eco is just still better, just with those few mana houses that he started off with, as well as making additional mana houses throughout the game. And yeah, Ezad calling GG right then and there. And what a beautiful game. I mean, seems like Azam just really knows what he wants to do, and kind of, it feels like, if there's something I learned from this game, is that, or especially like the Arctic territory game, it felt like a small mistake could literally just be GG. Like on this level, you see a small mistake, like I think it was the 5, those crossbows being snared onto by the pikes, and then that raid from Aizamk against Ezad when he was playing German. That small mistake just lost him the game, because his opponent didn't give him any breathing room after that. Like he just played perfectly after that, and you kind of need your opponent to make a mistake so you can kind of bounce back into the game, or you just need to play very well. So it's like you make minor mistakes and it's just so big in these games. That's one thing I've learned. Very interesting. And I feel like this mistake, I think one mistake in this game for Ezad was this barracks and the stable. I think this shouldn't have been placed here. I think it's too aggressive. Should have been placed maybe behind, because he's going very greedy on water as well. So I think that was one mistake. He's not going to be able to defend. Like if you make this very aggressively, you also need to be able to defend it. And he wasn't able to defend it because Aizamk just sent in those units, as well as having the better eco to train more units. Could have let base die and kept raiding. He was out of hunts. I had North in China versus Brit. True, true. He was out of hunts. I had North in China versus Brit. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Learned so much. Big shout out to Aizamk and big shout out to Ezad. What a game series. Beautiful game series. Unfortunately, it was a little bit stuttery in the last few games. Nothing we could do about it. I've casted many live games before, so I can guarantee you that it's what I said it was. Just maybe hopefully in the next patch they, instead of adding new skins for the wood crates, which is very good by the way, I really appreciate that. They also fixed the replay, because there's a lot of issues in the replay as well that need to be addressed, I feel. So yeah, hopefully that gets fixed in the future. But for now, let's just appreciate these 2 amazing players doing the most. I was going to show you guys the post game real quick. That was the last game of the Play All 5 series. Updating the score as well, so you can see Aizamk pulling ahead 3-2 in the last game of today. So wow, 2-0 down. Once again, I apologize for the score being inaccurate. I made a small mistake there. But yeah, being 2-0 down in the first 2 games, and then winning the last 3 games, so you can just see the comeback was there for Aizamk, and able to pull ahead in the end and win. But yeah, post-game stats on the way, so you guys get to see, even though there's not much that you guys probably want to see, you can see the resources more for Aizamk, just having a few more villages, as well as potentially having those extra villages out a lot sooner from the manor houses, meaning gathering resources a lot faster with those extra villages. So from the get, pretty much as soon as he puts that first manor house down, I'd assume, or those first 2 manor houses down. Also getting the hunting dogs very early as well as that TP. And just kind of just, even though it's not like that far ahead, you can just see a few resources, like 500, which is huge. I mean, 500 resources, that's like, that could be a 5 batch of Enna bowmen or something like that, which can just win you the fight. Like those longbows we talked about earlier, I felt like that was game winning almost, like having those extra longbows and just taking good fights beforehand. Very, very game winning. Could have gone either way, I feel. Could have just let this base die, I think, as Aizamk said. Kept raiding. What do we want to check out after this? Military unit population, I guess, in the last fight and the fight before. Ezad just losing a lot of units. In that one shoreline fight, those Janissaries getting surrounded, as well as those Hussar being, very valuable in population. So Hussar with the Janissaries and all of those Hussar going down and kind of trying to siege down the barracks, but then just losing a lot of units. Villager population 25 to 20 in the end. Pulling ahead maybe with those fishing boats throughout most of the early age 2 and age 1. But not really. You can see even with those 5 fishing boats being on par. Very interesting. So yeah, that was game number 5. I hope you guys enjoyed. Slowly losing my voice. Need to kind of drink some water before anything else. My voice is a little bit dried up. So hopefully you guys couldn't hear it too much. But once again, Mandarin Duck squad winning the Play All 5 series versus Ezad. Big shout out to the Mandarin Duck squad taking all of the last 3 games, 3-2 for Aizamk and Ezad playing for the Corsair Management Co. Playing some really good games, beautiful games, and like I said, these players are just geniuses in the way they play and their mindset and their mentality is just on a different level. So playing 5 games that high level is incredible. It's mind-boggling. So once again, thank you so much to all of you guys for being here. Thank you so much for the players for just giving us such great games as well. And for now, I feel like just gonna look to maybe see what's going on so we can maybe announce if there's gonna be another game series that you guys could look forward to in the later evening. So for me, it's currently 8 o'clock. So maybe we can see if there's another series that I might have to announce. But yeah, very unfortunate that the games were stuttering, but just unfortunate, sadly. Wish it wouldn't happen. Hi guys, I'm gonna cast another series for you guys, and I think it's gonna be a lot better because it's also gonna be in terms of quality. I don't think it gets much better than Ezad and Aizamk. I mean that is insane, but in terms of quality, gonna be a lot better. Hopefully. So I'm just gonna refill my water bottle, reset the stream, and I'll be back in like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And I think it's gonna be a good series. It's between Zanere and also Warsword, so very interesting from both sides, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. So you guys are gonna see me again really soon, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I'm gonna be hyped, but like I said, just gonna refill my water bottle and then also just take a short break, and then I'll come back stronger and we'll have a great time. So yeah, big shout out to you all, and once again, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all the follows, all the subscriptions, all the support. ESOC definitely can continue bringing tournaments to you like this with all the support that you guys provide. So thank you once again. And yes, hope to see you guys real soon, and hope you guys enjoyed the series. Big shout out to all the players as well. And bye-bye, guys. Big shout out to you all. And once again, I'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes, roughly.